Disclaimer. The following content is entirely fictional and does not represent real events or people. This material has been edited and adapted from the channel Dreamtelling channel. Shivering, I clung to my brother's hand, squeezing it so tight that he tried to shake me off. He always held my hand. Always had since we were toddlers. Even if I was close to cutting off the circulation to his hand, Aries shoved me behind him and blocked my view of what was going on. There was so much red. The floors were stained with it, and my daddy's shirt was soaked in it. He disappeared for a second, but caught up with us the moment I thought he wouldn't come back. He fell twice, and when he tried to stand the second time, his knees shook and gave out. Aries looked back and froze. "Take her and go." Daddy yelled at us with his eyes ringing amber. Aries blocked my view again, and we moved down the hallway. "No. We have to go back and help him." I cried, but I wasn't strong enough to resist him. "We don't have time." The rest was an evasive memory. Mommy appeared in front of us and ushered us into a tiny room with an urgent tone. "In here." She locked the door behind us, and I noticed that her hands were shaking. "Are you cold, Mommy?" I asked, walking up to her and hugging her. I tried to give her all the warmth I had. She enveloped me in a tight hug and kissed my forehead. "Of course not, my little Claire bear." She smiled at me, and that's when I saw the blood trickling down her cheeks. Her eyes were bleeding. "Mom?" Aries asked quietly, noticing too. Her eyes rolled back into her head as her arms left my shoulders, and she collapsed to the ground. "Mom." Aries shook her shoulders, but she didn't respond. "Mom." He shook her more roughly as he drowned in panic. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Aries let go of Mommy's hand, and it fell limply to her side. As he left, I rushed to her side and squeezed her hand until she woke up. Why wasn't she moving? Why was she ice cold, when just a second ago there was so much warmth? Why wasn't she breathing? I didn't understand. "Why won't she wake up?" I wailed. "Because she's dead." Aries grabbed my hand and tore me away from our mother. "They both are." My brother died that day. Eyes that were once so full of light were gone and replaced with a hollow shell. It was then that I knew he would never be the same. I hugged myself when it was obvious he wasn't going to comfort me. They couldn't really be dead, could they? We were supposed to be a family forever. There had to be something we could do. It couldn't end like this. Why would anyone want to hurt us? We didn't do anything wrong. Who would do this to us? All of these questions echoed in my head like a curse. Alpha Troy. He sputtered and said a word starting with an F that I didn't recognize. Outside, the snow was still falling. It never stopped. My family was ripped away from me forever, by the one they called Troy. What does it mean to be a true blood? Part of the strongest, biggest, oldest, and most powerful bloodlines in the entire werewolf world. It means that my brother is a stinking moron. He was the alpha of the pack, and so technically the alpha of me, which was completely unnecessary because I didn't need someone to boss me around. But he was the only family I had left, and it wasn't like you could choose who you were related to. He sent me away to an insanely boring town, with only 3 stoplights, I might add, to live out my entire life. It was total hell. I was prohibited from making any friends in case they found out about my secret. Not that I minded much. Everyone my age just wanted to move far away, and I didn't blame them. Aries said he sent me here for my safety, but I couldn't see how living in this black hole would protect me. I would be better off living with the pack, but no. My brother ordered me to stay here. My theory was that he just didn't want to deal with me. The only good thing I was looking forward to was beginning my senior year of human high school. Aries told me this would be my last year and that we would talk about my future at some point. I couldn't wait to leave. The school barely had 200 students, and more than half of them didn't talk to me. Every day was the same and nothing changed. Like I said, an insanely boring town. And I, Claire Trueblood, would do anything for a little fun. McDonald. I cringed when I heard my fake last name. I spun around and saw Shane run up to me. It looked like he'd just woken up. Probably since he never slept for more than 6 hours. Unlike me. Shane actually did his homework while I kind of accidentally forgot. Aries can deal with it. Minkin. I waited for him to catch up so we could walk together. Did you do the math homework? He asked as we headed to lunch. Shane and I had almost every class together. Considering how small the school was. Math was my worst subject and he wanted to tutor me, but I told him he'd be wasting his time. I wasterably math. Was I supposed to? I asked innocently. Yeah. It counts for 10% of our grade. Oops. Forgive me. I was doing something else that was more important. I sighed dramatically and he cocked his head. Like what? Watching my toenails grow. Shane chuckled and we made our way to our usual spot on the bleachers outside. Fresh air always made me feel better on days like these. So, what are your plans for the weekend? Shane asked while taking a huge aff. And I mean huge. Bite into his ham sandwich. He ate like 6 meals a day. I don't know. Normally I'd spend time with Kashmir, my personal servant, at our shared guest house. After the whole Holly incident with Alex, my brother was very hesitant to trust the Omegas. But Kashmir had served me since birth and we were pretty close. Me neither. You aren't going to try out for soccer again? Nah. Soccer's passé. Funny thing was Shane used to be popular. As the new kid in town last year and the last transfer after me, everyone wanted to be his friend. He was the starter for our soccer and baseball teams and was invited to every party Layla threw when her parents were out of town. Then he started hanging out with me and it was like he became invisible to the whole school. He wasn't welcome at the cool kids table anymore and it didn't take long for him to quit all of the teams he'd signed up for. Whenever I joked about his fall from grace, he brushed it off and said Layla and the others did something that made him see who they really were. You aren't going home this weekend? Shane asked. Shane also knew about Aries. To an extent. I always complained about him. He knew that my brother lived far away and that he didn't let me go home. Not yet. Still waiting for him to call me back. I answered and watched as he finished his first sandwich and moved on to his second. Shane was such a glutton. He was about to take a bite when something behind me caught his eye. Incoming. Layla Pride and the rest of the cheerleading squad were making their way towards us. Great. You need to move. This is our spot. She demanded like she was the queen of the school. I learned a long time ago to ignore her and not even bother with a waste of space like her. Since when? Shane asked. Since the captain of the cheerleading squad, decided we need this space for practice. She crossed her pom-poms over her chest. How ridiculous could she be right now? There's tons of space on the other side of the field. He shrugged. Shane was the only one who ever stood up to her. It was also a part of why I liked him. I want this side. I don't want to face the sun. Well, I don't see your name on it. Layla didn't like that. Why don't I go and get the principal and she can have this all sorted out? She took a step closer as if she could intimidate us. Go ahead. The more unbothered he acted, the more frustrated she became. Layla grabbed my backpack and threw it over her shoulder onto the ground. Hey, I objected. She tried to grab my coffee that was by my feet, but we got to it at the same time. Okay, we get it. Well, leave. I pulled the cup back, but she wouldn't let up. Now let go. No. Let. She released her grip and the coffee spilled all over the front of my shirt. On top of that, I lost my balance and tripped forward. My cheek scraped against the track as I fell to the ground. Claire. Shane immediately rushed over to me. Her friends laughed, but I wasn't embarrassed at all. I was angry. Compared to other wolves, I had excellent self-control. I had always been the peaceful one who never turned to blood and violence. But not this time. My temper snapped and I had this insane urge to break her neck. I wanted to show her and everyone in this town that I was 1,000,000 times stronger than they'd ever be. They would think twice about challenging the alpha's sister. But showing my true form would jeopardize more than just my safety. It would mean the end of werewolves for all eternity. There would be no going back. I could feel my wolf pushing against me, and I knew she was winning. Remember your anchor. Before I lost control of my wolf and phased right in front of everyone, I grabbed my backpack and ran back inside the school. I sprinted down an empty hall and into a handicap bathroom. I needed to calm down. I wouldn't kill anyone. Not even Layla. No matter how much I wanted. This wouldn't be my villain origin story. With shaking hands, I took out my phone and called Aries. It was a long shot and a last resort, but I needed someone familiar to talk to. I needed hope to cling on to. Hello. He answered on the 5th ring. Aries, I exclaimed. A little startled to actually hear his voice after going so long without it. I've been trying to call you for weeks. Why don't you pick up? I've been very busy. His tone was flat. Why are you calling? Are you safe? Perfectly fine. Not Thatha would know. I hate it here. Aries. I feel so alone. When can I come home? You know the rules. But I want to come home. Well, discuss it later after you finish the school year. That wasn't until another 10 months. Why can't we discuss it now? I almost phased in front of everyone. Aries. This time I controlled it, but maybe next time I'll let my wolf out on purpose. It was never a priority with him. Even his own blood, his only blood, was never enough for him. I just wanted my brother back. I have to go. I'll call you back. He always said that, but never did. But the line went dead and he was gone. I punched the phone into the bathroom wall with my fist. If I were human, just like everyone else in this school, my bones would shatter. But there was only a slight bruise forming on my knuckles where it connected with the concrete. What could he possibly be busy with? Aries has been thinking about what to do with the enemy Alpha. Kashmir had said when I asked what was going on back home. Tell me how it was fair that the enemy who murdered our parents got more of his attention than his own sister. That's right. It wasn't. Well, if the enemy was taking too much of his time, why didn't I just eliminate him? I knew what I had to do. I was going to murder the murderer my brother was protecting. I threw whatever was left of my phone in the trash and splashed some cold water on my coffee-stained shirt. Then I opened the door. To my complete horror, Shane was standing right next to the bathroom. My heart dropped. Had he just heard our entire conversation? How long have you been standing there? All of the anger that had been coursing through my veins a second ago had dissipated. Not long. Shane shrugged. Did you hear? I looked around the hall and behind my shoulder to make sure no one else was listening. I'd been very, very careful not to let anyone find out about me. Not really. The walls are pretty soundproof. Thank the moon goddess. That could have gone completely differently. I just called my brother. He said I'm not coming home until the end of the year. I wanted nothing more than to break his rules. Go back home and get rid of the prisoner who kept distracting him. It would definitely grab his attention. But realistically, it wasn't going to happen. He told you couldn't go back to your own home. From an outsider's perspective, it sounded controlling. But we were from different worlds, and Shane would never understand our hierarchy. You don't know my brother. Shane. Whatever he says goes. Why don't you just go home and talk it out with him? I mean, you're almost 18. You're an adult. You have free will. I can't, even if I wanted to. I don't have a car. Aries was scared that if he gave me one of the cars in inventory that I'd drive somewhere far away. And he was right. Shane took out his car keys and jingled them in the air. Then it's a good thing you have a best friend who does. He was my partner in crime. If he hadn't been by my side, I don't know what would have happened with Layla. Or the rest of the school year, for that matter. Now, we still had half the school day left. I didn't care about ditching. I would actually be relieved to miss math class. But Shane did. He worked hard for his grades. If you want to go, we should leave now before it gets too dark. He suggested, and was surprisingly as eager as I was to leave. This would be my last chance to even the score. A smile made its way onto my face. I hope you like country music. Our road trip had a few pit stops along the way since Shane had the bladder of a tiny dog and the appetite of a large child. We ended up buying a bunch of snacks from a vending machine just so his stomach stopped making noise. We were one of the last cars on the road. We got to the castle during the golden hour. When Shane caught a sneak peek of the Black Castle from the other side of the gate, his jaw dropped to the floor. Is this it? He gulped. Yep. Home sweet home. There's no way you live here. I stayed quiet for once and he lost his shit. Who are you? Are you royalty or something? It was best not to answer him. You can pull up under that tree. He parked the car and hopefully the tree would block him from being seen. I unbuckled my seatbelt and he did too, but it was too risky to bring him with me. Stay here. I'll be right back. What? I'm not going with you. He sounded disappointed. You don't want to meet my brother. Your brother, the King of the United States. He called out as I shut the passenger door. Oh, Shane. If only you knew. I unlocked the gate with the silver necklace that doubled as the emergency key and snuck in. If the gate was forced open without a key, an alarm would sound and wolves would be sent immediately. Contrary to what outsiders believed, Ares stationed more wolves on patrol behind the castle. He figured if the enemy were smart, they wouldn't walk right up to our front door. But I still had to be careful. If just one saw me, they would mind Link, Ares, and Id be sent away. Honestly, it was kind of hard breaking into your own home. A young woman with long red hair and a peach floral dress came into view. It was Luna Alex. On any other day, I would have been excited to see her. But I was trying to sneak in undetected, and where there was Alex, there was a horde of wolves protecting her. Alex started walking down the hill, and I was about to jump into a nearby bush when she saw me. Claire. Crap. I wasn't fast enough. I thought it was you. Yup. It's me. I giggled nervously and bowed my head. It wouldn't be long until someone saw us. Good to see you again, as always. We hugged and she smiled. Who's that in the car? I looked back, wondering how on earth she could possibly know. But Shane had left his lights on. Of course. Oh. That's my friend. Hez just dropping me off real quick. And then, we'll be on our way. Her eyes lit up when I said friend. Why don't you invite him inside? He must be tired from the drive. We never had guests when Ares was in charge, so it was strange to invite people inside. Has totally fine out here. But, thank you. I know how long and exhausting the trip can be from personal experience. I'm sure it would be nice for him to stretch his legs. She offered again, and I almost caved. She really was the perfect Luna. He doesn't actually know about any of this werewolf stuff. I'm not sure that it's the best idea. Realization struck her. Of course. That makes sense. Well, should I tell Aries you're here? Oh no. 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 He's busy. I don't want to bother him. I'm just going to go in and out, and then we have to get back to school. It wouldn't be long for them to discover my presence. Time was ticking. Can you do me a quick favor? Can you go inside and ask Roman and the others what we're having for dinner tonight? But don't tell him I asked. I want it to be a surprise. Sure. She looked confused, but gathered her long dress in her hands. I'll see you inside. Claire. As she distracted them, I tiptoed around the corner and took the stairs down a floor. There were only 2 places in the whole castle Aries prohibited me from going. The first were the underground tunnels and the second were the cells, especially if they were occupied. So I was basically breaking 2 rules today. Before I headed down to the cells, I grabbed a knife from the weapons closet. This knife would sink into the side of his head in a few minutes. It would be a clean death and more mercy than he showed my family, but I wanted him gone. When I first heard that Aries was going to spare the man who murdered our parents, I was in denial. We both promised each other that if we ever had him in our custody, we would torture him slowly until he was begging for death. Then we would push him more. Blake told me it was his human mate Alex who wanted to keep him as a prisoner. She was the Luna and had final say, but she didn't know about any of the cruel atrocities he committed. She wasn't there when he took our parents. Some people didn't deserve a second chance. When I was below ground level, I followed the scent to the only cell that was occupied. The rest had been cleared out for execution. I hid my knife in my denim jacket sleeve as I walked right up to his cell. All 4 of his limbs were chained to the floor with the strongest iron. His chest was bare and littered with scars that hadn't healed. His heart was weak. I unlocked the cell and it made the slightest sound. He stirred and I waited for him to open his eyes. I wanted him to see that it was me. I wanted to be the last thing he saw before death. I met his golden eyes. We were mates. It's you. I couldn't break eye contact. His eyes were the color of liquid gold. Beautiful yet dangerous. This was the best the moon goddess could give me, the king of the enemy pack. Alpha's blood ran through our veins, but that was where the similarities ended. I was mated to an absolute monster. Who's asking? Blondie. He smirked and I flinched at the nickname. How could something so harmless make me lose my mind? I gripped the knife tighter in my hand, and all rational thoughts telling me to control my emotions were thrown out the window. Murderer. I screamed and envisioned myself plunging it deep into his heartless chest. You're a murderer. I wanted him to hurt. I wanted him to feel everything Id felt that night when he took them away from me. Troy didn't react. He was exactly where I wanted him, helpless as I could have hoped. My emotions were split down the middle. Love and hate tore me in half. Was I happy to see the man who killed my parents rotting away in a cell? Yes. Even when this man was my mate. The answer was not so clear. You murdered my parents, I shouted at him. Troy closed his eyes as if the accusation finally hit him. I won't insult you by pretending that I care. I'll take whatever you got. He laid motionless on the floor. A mix of rage and despair consumed me. I had saved all of it for him, but he barely reacted. Did he even care? Did he even feel anything at all? Tears streamed down my face. I'll kill you. No. You won't. Well, see about that. He was wide open. I leaned over him and pressed the tip of the knife to his sternum. It would take just one slight movement of my wrist and he would be gone. It was what I wanted. Then why did my heart lurch at the sight of him so damaged? He was injured. He shouldn't have been here. He could be saved. I wrestled with myself. It was like my mind and body were being controlled by another force. I physically could not hurt him. Killing him would be like killing myself. Fuck you. I exhaled under my breath. The knife was heavy in my right hand, so I placed my left hand on his chest to steady myself. His skin touched mine. Electricity shot through my arm all the way to my fingertips. From the way he locked eyes with me, I could tell he had felt it. Too. Are you done? His voice was hoarse. I ripped my hand away, but the spark was still keeping my body alive. There was no sound except for the erratic beat of his heart. So it'd been wrong. He did have a heart. But that wasn't all. It was pounding at the speed of a hummingbird. We felt the same thing. I dropped the knife and it fell to the ground. Murderer. I stifled a sob. I hated him. Years of wishing for my mate and dreaming of our future together crumbled into ash. The moon goddess betrayed me. My mate was my enemy. Sadder still was that our souls were connected. It was why I couldn't kill him. If anything happened to him, it would happen to me. My eyes would bleed like Mom's and we would share the same fate. It all led to him. There was only one solution. I need you to reject me. Yes. It would destroy me. Maybe more than that. I had been waiting for my mate to arrive for as long as I could remember. It wasn't fair. I would reject him myself, but only the higher-ranking wolf can say the words to end the bond. Because he was an alpha. I was powerless. His intense gaze made my face hot. I will if you free me. Typical. This isn't a negotiation. He wasn't in any position to be making demands. He was just lucky I couldn't hurt him or he'd be cut up in 100 tiny pieces right about now. Help me escape and I promise I will reject you. Then you can kill me all you want. He could give me what I wanted most, but it could risk everything my pack had been through to capture him. How could I even begin to trust him? And why would I help you escape? Was he assuming I would be civil because we were linked? You're a murderer. He sighed. He actually sighed. Yes. I think we've established that. Anyone would have been better. Even a human. I want a refund, I retorted. It was a serious moment that left me emotionally wrecked, but I didn't know how to cope without making a joke. You don't always get what you want. I didn't know what to do. Help him escape and risk him keeping his promise. Or leave and risk my wolf weakening. What did the universe want me to do? Troy tried to sway me. Look, I want this as much as you do. I don't want a mate. I never have. You help me, and I help us both. Then we go our separate ways, and we never have to see each other. I'll leave you. Your brother and your pack alone for good. Deal. A bargain. Of course he would try to talk his way out of this. Do you think I'm an idiot? No. I think you're smart and sensible. Which is why you'll consider it. Making a deal with the devil was not going to look good when Ares found out. Freeing him would undo everything my pack had fought for in order to seal him away forever, but what choice did I have? I didn't want this. Fine. I reluctantly agreed. The word felt like surrender. But you better keep your end of the deal. His steady amber eyes tracked mine. Then get me out of this. Had been chained in iron forged to last until the end of his sentence. Not even a key could open it. The only way to break it was with special pliers from a locked box upstairs. Only a select few of our wolves knew where. I got up and made my way out of his cell. I closed the door behind me. And with that, I went to help the man who had murdered my parents. "Are you okay?" I asked as Troy slowed down to a jog. He was staggering and struggling to keep up with me. After being imprisoned for so long without fresh food or water, it was a wonder he wasn't worse off. "Fine." He dismissed, but held a hand to his shoulder. Half of me didn't give a fuck what happened to him, but the other half needed him to be okay, to at least make it back and reject me. "Let me look." I tried to touch his shoulder, but he jumped away from me like I had struck him. "Don't touch me," Troy growled and my wolf whimpered. I was only trying to help like a normal person. He saw the hurt in my eyes and his eyes softened a little. "Sorry. I didn't mean that. Let's keep moving." Troy ran ahead of me, but I didn't like following him. We ran for a long time. So long that it felt like I'd been running through the woods my whole life. Ares had never let me near the enemy border. We didn't talk, but there were so many things I wanted to say. It wouldn't mean anything anyway, since we weren't going to be mates for very long. "We're here," Troy announced and came to an abrupt stop. There was no difference in land, but on their side I caught a whiff of many exotic scents. Maybe it would have been different if we didn't hate each other. I would never know. "Now complete your part of the deal." I wanted it done immediately. He nodded and faced me head on. This would be the last time I saw my mate. I didn't know what fate had planned. "You can't come with me. You can't ever cross this line. If I see you here again, I'll have to kill you," Troy said, not so menacingly. He could barely stand. He was in no condition to carry out his empty threats. "Fine," I heard myself say. There was no time to argue. If anyone found us now, it would not be pretty. "I will—" Troy Jackson. "Reject." He stopped. "What's your name again?" He had to be joking. "Claire Trueblood." "Right. Just get fucking on with it." I didn't want to beg, but I was hanging by a thread. The words had to be spoken so we could be free from each other. I kept my end of the deal up. Now it was his turn. "Shit." He froze and muttered under his breath. "Someone's coming." I didn't get a chance to respond because he pivoted around and disappeared into the depths of his own territory. I was rooted to the ground as I couldn't cross the border. "Don't go where I can't follow." I was livid. I was betrayed. I was too late. And Troy broke his promise. Dejected, I made the journey back to the front gates alone. I snuck back to Shane's car, but when I got there was no one in the driver's seat. No one in the back seat either. Where on earth did he go? Did someone kidnap him? He couldn't survive that long without me, especially as I wasn't even supposed to be here. Lost someone. I jumped. Ares was standing by the gate. "What did you do with him?" "You mean that human boy? Hez in one piece. Which is more than I can say for you. What were you thinking bringing him here? Hez a fucking human." I'd never seen Ares so mad. Scratch that. I have. But Hed never been this mad at me before. Then again, I'd never brought a friend up here. "Alex is human," I pointed out. "She's my mate. She's different." He snapped. "You know nothing about this boy. He could be a hunter for all you know." "Your mates, friends, are hunters," I yelled back. "But I don't see you being concerned about them. The rules only applied to me." "Claire, you never think. We don't bring outsiders here for a reason, and that reason is because of what happened in the past." I did my research on him. "Okay." He passed the background check. "That isn't for you to decide. Don't you know what you've done? You've put the whole pack in danger. He shook his head. You aren't even supposed to be here. I rolled my eyes and headed back up the hill. If he wanted me gone, then I would go. Fine. Well, go back then. Where is he? Hes with Blake, but the damage is done. I just wanted my brother back. But I couldn't tell him that because he wouldn't care anyway. No one ever did. Without another look in his direction, I walked up to the castle. He would get what he wished for. Shane and Alex were having tea in one of the meeting rooms. I could hear them laughing from down the hall. At least they were having fun. I knocked on the door and they both turned around. Claire. Alex smiled. Come join us. That's okay. We were actually just leaving. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't cheer myself up for them. Come on. Shane. Let's go home. Leaving so soon? Alex asked and I nodded. Everything okay? Shane noticed something was wrong right away. Yup. Just saw my brother is all. It wouldn't be long until Aries found out that Troy was missing. I had to be long gone before that happened or else I'd really be in trouble. It was really nice to meet you. Shane gushed as he stood up. Actually, I have to hit the bathroom before we go. If that's okay. It's down the hall. Take 2 rights, and it should be the first door on your left. Alex said. Thanks. Shane left and I pitter-pattered until he came back. So I have yet to hear how you know Shane. Alex sipped on her chamomile tea, but I needed something stronger. I went into one of the cabinets and took out a bottle of one of our oldest bottles of Sauvignon Blanc. Wine. I offered, but she politely refused. No. Thank you. Oh. Right. You can't drink. Alex was pregnant with twins and due in the spring. Shame. I poured myself a glass. Shane's a friend. He's very nice. Though he did have many questions that I couldn't really answer. So be prepared. He was lucky. He was normal and didn't have to deal with all of this. Just when I wanted to get away from Aries, he walked right in. Anger radiated off of him in waves, but he didn't raise his voice. It probably had to do more with the fact that his mate was in the same room. Be grateful I'm not sending Marvel to look after you. But Kashmir has her work out for her as always. Aries said as he took the glass from my hands. Good God. I couldn't get away from him. I'm not even allowed to have a drink in my own house now. Not when you're driving back tonight. I metabolize alcohol faster than a 6-foot fraternity brother. 1 drink won't kill me. I snorted. Claire. I still don't think it's a good idea, Alex said gently. Fine. It was time to leave. I'm grabbing Shane and we're going. Just what you wanted. I hugged Alex and passed by my brother without another word for 2 good reasons. 1. Because I was so fucking mad at him, and 2. So he wouldn't catch the scent of the lying traitor Alpha that I was stupid enough to free. There wasn't 1 minute that Shane stopped talking. He kept going on and on about my house, my family, my secret life. He rattled off his theories that I was a spy for another country or that I won the lottery and was living in luxury. All I could think about was what just happened. I'm the passenger princess now. Shane reclined his seat and pretended to fall asleep. This is my dad's car, so please don't do anything stupid. I would have joined in on the banter, but I was too overwhelmed. I was frustrated with Aries, angry at Troy, and confused about everything else. As soon as we started driving, I got an intense feeling that I was going the wrong way. My soul could feel the distance between us getting longer, and it was getting increasingly more difficult to silence my emotions. It felt like no one was on my side. Blake and Marvel took their commands from Aries. Aries had Alex. Troy would reject me soon enough. And the humans at the high school I detested only ignored me. The only person who called me was my servant Kashmir, and it was because she was obligated to keep track of me. I had no one. I belonged nowhere. I was so lost in my own head that I almost drifted off the road. Claire. Shane shouted and grabbed the wheel to get us back on the asphalt. Are you okay? His tone wasn't accusatory. More like concerned. Sorry, I mumbled. If I didn't let everything out soon, I was going to explode. There were strict rules for a reason. Countless humans died carrying the secrets of wolves. Humans and wolves could never mix. But if that were true, why had the moon goddess matched my alpha brother with a human? You cannot tell anyone about who you are, Ares had told me very sternly. They will never understand. But I knew Shane would. He was trustworthy, and even if he had any other friends to tell, they wouldn't believe him without any evidence. He saw where I lived, and Ares was already mad at me. How bad would it be to swear my best friend to another secret? I have something to tell you, I blurted. Sounds serious, he joked sarcastically. He had no idea. You've seen the castle my family lives in. You've seen the place I grew up. I'm not who you think I am. I knew it. Shane grinned. You're fucking royalty, aren't you? You're only half right. It would have been easier if I were a normal human princess born in a normal human family. I wouldn't have to be burdened with so many lies and secrets. I could live without fear or restriction. What's the other half, then? Moment of truth. Don't let me be wrong about you. Shane. I'm a werewolf. Crickets. A werewolf. He repeated like it was a foreign word. Yes. I'm a werewolf. You're a werewolf. Now I wanted to hit him in the head for making me repeat myself. Yes. That's what I said. You're a werewolf. I finished his sentence and he was dead silent before bursting out into laughter. And I'm a vampire. And my sister's a mermaid. And my baby cousin's a troll. He shook his head and kept laughing obnoxiously. Honestly, if you could be anything, you'd choose a shape-shifting dog. Without warning, I took a sharp turn and pulled over on the shoulder of the road. I didn't even care if there was anyone behind me. What the hell are you doing? Shane held onto the handle above the door as he smacked into the window. To be fair, I should have built up to it and explained it better. But my patience was wearing thin. If you're too stubborn to believe me, then I guess I have to show you. I got out of the car and Shane still had that stupid look on his face. I started heading off into the woods and he called out after me. When he realized I wasn't going to listen, he ran to catch up. What is going on? Where are we going? He asked anxiously, and I ignored him. It was dark, so Shane used the flashlight on his phone to avoid the clumsy tree roots. I had nocturnal vision, so I knew exactly where I was going. This is how horror movies start, you know, Shane mumbled. Then you should be happy I'm the main character. Now hurry up. He was trailing behind and I knew there were bears in the area. I could fend them off pretty easily, but not if he got lost. We were still too close to the highway as I could hear the other cars speed by. No. We had to be more clandestine. Shane hesitantly followed until we were more than 3 miles away from civilization. Can we go back to the car now? I'm hungry and I'm tired, he whined. Not until I show you something. I spotted a pretty big maple tree with a wide base and stopped there. This should be far enough. Show me what? Far enough for what? I've never phased in front of a human before, so I don't really know how you're going to react. First things first. I needed to ditch my clothes. I started taking off my dress, and Shane lost his mind. What the fuck are you doing? I was sure from a human's point of view, stripping down like this seemed insane. But to us, this was our natural form. Nudity didn't really bother us. My bones cracked into place. My coat was more luscious than other wolves because of how sheltered Ares kept me. There were no scars. No tears. It was as if it had never been touched. In wolf form, my mind was hazy. I still had the ability to think like a human, but animal instinct could and would take over. In exchange, my senses were heightened, as well as my speed and strength being amplified. My eyes met Shane's, and I expected him to understand. Instead, he fainted. His eyes rolled back into his head, and the air was stolen from his lips. When he fell to the ground, I used my nose to poke his face, but he was unresponsive. My ears could pick up his heartbeat at least. That probably could have gone better than it did. I was a second away from phasing into my human form in order to carry him back to the car until I caught the scent of the Jackson pack. Something changed and I wasn't in control anymore. My wolf had a death-like grip on his scent and took off to get the smallest whiff. Evolution made me hard, wired to crave my mate like the strongest drug. It didn't matter how much I hated him. I dug my feet into the ground. Here it was, the invisible line separating our territories. Wanderers wouldn't even know by looking at it. A century ago, it was just another spot in the forest. His scent was so powerful that it was invading my lungs. He was so close. He was standing right there. Troy was shrouded in shadows behind the trees. He looked to have regained his health in just a couple of hours. He watched me in my wolf form as my feet crossed the boundary. It was like he was my gravity and I couldn't break free. The mate bond had led me straight to him. We circled around each other until he stopped so that I was facing my own territory. His infamous amber eyes did little to greet me. Are we doing this? I closed my eyes. Yes. Phase, he commanded, and it was almost as if he couldn't stand to look at me. I can't reject you if you can't talk. He was right. I had to seal the rejection. My tunnel vision was so bad that I hadn't even heard another pair of footsteps echoing behind me. So it's you. Another voice cut through the tension. Ares had sheltered me so well from the enemy that he'd never met most of their wolves. But I had recognized this one from his mate's coronation. It was Dallas, Troy's younger brother. It was too late. I was cornered. Welcome to the Jackson pack. Claire Trueblood. Dallas hated me. I knew as soon as he took one look at me. My first impression of him was mutual. He looked tired and miserable to be here. His favorite pastime seemed to be glaring. You must be pretty stupid to step foot on our territory. White wolf. I growled at him. Dallas and I never had a single conversation with each other, so I was confused as to how he recognized me. But I realized that it was because of my white coat. Not many wolves had fur as light as mine, just like how very few had fur as dark as my brother's. It was then that I noticed 3 other wolves inching their way to where I was. They were all converging where I stood. Well, aren't you going to phase? Troy stared into my eyes. How stupid was I to fall for his lies? If I phased, I would give up my stronger form and the only thing protecting me from becoming roadkill. Besides, if he were planning on putting me in a cell, I would rather sit in there in my wolf form. The last thing I wanted to do was talk to him. Troy's wolves squeezed me from both sides. I showed my teeth and they kept their distance. For now. Have it your way. Let's go. Troy commanded and led the group. 5 versus 1 were not good odds. There wasn't enough time to call the pack either, and I didn't want another war, so I yielded. I looked back at my territory one last time. Considering what I assumed they were going to do with me, it was possible that I would never see my pack again. And so I was escorted to the enemy's side. If I were traveling with no knowledge of pacts and boundary lines, I would say their side of the forest looked identical to ours. There were steep hills, bushes of fruit, open meadows, and lots of pine trees. The difference was only magnified when we arrived at their golden castle. The first thing I noticed was how pretty and bright their castle was compared to ours. Ares liked to keep our home dark and cold so no one would trespass, though it made our wolves somber. He didn't bother with upkeep either, so there was some serious overgrowth everywhere. I hated to say it, but their place was more inviting than ours. 2 women were already waiting on the steps for him to get back. One had brown skin and the longest hair I'd ever seen. The other one was older with a curvier figure. They bowed their heads when he approached. "Welcome home, Alpha," the older one greeted. She sounded like the beta, but I was guessing here. "Who's the rogue?" The other was quick to pounce on me. "Claire Trueblood," Dallas answered. "The princess of the True Blood pack." "Oh. Errant, we all just so honored to be in your presence. Your Highness," the young woman, whom I'd never met before, said sarcastically. "That's enough, Cyrene," Troy snapped. Did I detect annoyance in his tone? "Aren't you concerned that we've broken the arrangements of the treaty?" At least his beta seemed to be thinking logically. The treaty would be broken if we were to kill one of their own. And when word gets out to Ares that you were holding his sister here, then hell have to come and get her. Troy grinned, and I couldn't understand why he would want to aggravate him. I thought we put all of this bullshit behind us last year. The princess and I are going to have a little talk. I don't want to be disturbed. I followed him because I had no one else. Troy walked down a long hallway and up the stairs. I was expecting to be put into a tiny cell like he was, so when we entered a spacious room with windows and so much light, I was caught off guard. He shut the door and I watched him in my wolf form. "We need to talk." I snorted. Definitely the best way to start a conversation without raising any alarms, I thought sarcastically. Troy crossed his arms. "Phase," he commanded, "and try not to make a mess in my room." His room. So this was what a murderer's bedroom looked like. How did he sleep at night knowing what he did? While the rest of the Jackson castle seemed to have a 24/7 cleaning service, his bedroom was pretty messy. Pillows covered the floor. Cups of water were everywhere and there wasn't a clear surface in sight. His sheets weren't made and were twisted up as if he were having trouble sleeping. So maybe he didn't get any sleep after all. No way was I phasing back in his presence. Although, he may lose his mind if he saw me naked. In that case, that was me asking nicely. There are other ways of making you phase. He did not just say that. Fine then. He could have it his way. I relaxed my bones and found myself back in my human form. Troy immediately threw something at me, and I realized it was a gold robe. He stared at me as I put it on and tied the belt around my waist. "You can't keep me here forever." I sat on the bed but quickly jumped up as if it shocked me. This was where Troy slept every night. Touching his sheets made me want to burn my hands. Hell, find out you kidnapped me. If not him, then someone else will. Kashmir was probably already looking for me as we spoke. It wouldn't be long until she told Ares that I never returned to school. School might even notify him directly if the teachers did their job. And Shane, I gasped. Shane was probably lost in the woods somewhere. I was the only one who knew he was out there. He needed my help. "I never kidnapped you, Blondie. You were the one who decided to cross into my territory. Ares will obey the terms of the treaty." He sure sounded confident. "Do you want my brother to find out about the bond?" "Hell be furious." Troy smirked. "Of course. That's exactly what you want. As long as you're bound to me." He can't do anything. I'm untouchable. Only someone as heartless as Troy would abuse a mate bond. So you're resorting to blackmail. How classy. I deadpanned. The moon goddess didn't match her children on a whim. We only got one mate, and that person was supposed to be our reflection. Yet if the moon goddess thought this waste of space was my soulmate, then maybe I should start thinking and acting like him. I waited this long for nothing. What else did I have to lose? I walked to one of the windows and opened it. There was enough space for me to jump, which would send me down a bunch of stories as Troy's room just had to be on the top floor. What the hell are you doing? Troy only spoke up when I sat on the windowsill and swung one leg over so that it dangled hundreds of feet from the ground. We both know very well what happens when one person in the bond is in pain. The crisp air felt nice on my bare skin. And I'm sure this wouldn't be enough to kill me, but it would definitely make it impossible to fight my brother. Is this your first time blackmailing somebody? You're going to have to do a lot better than that. Maybe. My right leg joined my left, and Troy was staring at me like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. He killed my parents. He deserved to feel the pain that paralyzed me for years. But I have bad impulse control. I shut my eyes and let go of the windowsill. A weight dropped in my stomach as my body was suspended in free fall. It was a glorious, exhilarating feeling to fly without a safety net. It didn't last too long. Troy was quick enough to grab my right arm with both of his hands. He must have moved at a superhuman speed to reach me. There was a spark when his fingers touched me. Let go, I shouted as his death grip was cutting off my circulation. Are you fucking crazy? I'm not letting you hurt yourself because you want to hurt me. What kind of twisted bullshit is that? Troy's eyes were livid. A strong breeze caused me to hit the side of the castle, but his grip didn't falter. That's what you wanted to do with me. No, it's not. Weren't his arms getting tired of holding me? The difference is, I would never do anything that would end up with you getting hurt. I floated in the air for a few stunned seconds. Did he just say what I thought he said? He pulled me up and through the window with ease, but my foot banged on the glass and I lost my balance. I collapsed on top of him with my hands on his chest and his hands on my legs. The tension was so high that we were both completely frozen in time. Someone knocked on the door, which made Troy inhale sharply. He threw me off of him and moved to the opposite side of the room. I used the wall to help me stand as my knees were shaking. Come in, Troy finally said, and his brother opened the door. Troy. Dallas bowed and only looked at him. They are ready for you. I'll be there. Watch her until I return. He cleared his throat and rushed to get out of there, leaving me alone with his brother. We sat in silence until Troy came back. Me, on the round ottoman by the bed, and Dallas, in a chair reading a book at the table. Both of us occasionally stared at the clock above the wolf motif mirror. He refused to speak except for a curt cough. This wasn't awkward at all. It got to be so painful that I was desperate to make any sort of conversation. How's Iris? Dallas barely flinched when I said his mate's name. She had been a true-blood wolf first, having held a royal rank of Delta before being shipped off to spy on Troy. I wasn't actually there when she left, but I did learn that she and Dallas were mates from Blake. It was quite juicy gossip. Dallas didn't engage with me. I'm guessing you never even told her I was here. Or maybe you're keeping her on a short leash and locking her in her room. I tried using the mind link to communicate with her, but I was getting static, which meant she wasn't in the building. Or maybe she finally had enough of you and left your pathetic ass. That riled him up. Dallas shut his book and glared at me. If it isn't made abundantly clear, I don't like you or that shit show you call a pack. You can rot in hell for all I care. Okay. Dallas, tell me how you really feel. Funny, because that's exactly how I feel about your pack. Having been graced by you and your brother's lovely company, there's not exactly a lot to like. You should be grateful Troy is taking it easy on you. I snorted. Yes. I'm so grateful to be kidnapped and held here against my will. I will not tolerate sarcasm. He went back to his book and more silence followed. He was just as annoying as his older brother. How his mate could stand him, I'd never know. I sensed Troy getting closer in proximity. You can hate me and my pack all you want, but I'll remind you that your mate was from my pack. She was my family before you even met her. Iris was 4 years older than me, and the only one who spoke up against Ares when he wanted to send me away. Not even Blake did that. And she's told me how great that experience has been for her. Troy opened the door and Dallas had the last word. You can leave, Troy announced, but I didn't know who he was talking to. Dallas shot me a smug look. Should I put her in a cell? Oh. He would love that. Wouldn't he? I was talking to you. Dallas. I am not sleeping here, I shrilled. You don't get a choice. Princess. Troy interrupted and dismissed his brother. Well, meet at 8. Dallas walked out and Troy locked the door. Did you hear me? I said I'm not sleeping here. I crossed my arms and glared at him. Yes. I think the whole pack heard you, Troy retorted. I would rather take my chances in a dirty old cell than sleep in the same room as you. Unfortunately, those spots are all full. If I'd been smart, I should have left when the door was open. Fine then. I'd play along. But not without making a scene. First, I grabbed one of his white pillows and dropped it on the floor. Second, I took one of his fur blankets and made myself a little nest. What are you doing? Sleeping. What does it look like? Not there. He sighed in frustration, and I secretly loved getting on his nerves. Take the bed. I was about to argue with him, but he sat in the blankets I just made and pointed to his messy bed. Had my eyes and ears possibly deceived me? I couldn't believe it. It was the nicest thing he'd done for me so far. Too bad that I didn't want anything to do with his germ-infested bed. I would have to burn my whole body and bury myself if I touched anything in there. No. I'm good. Troy didn't say anything, so I thought that the matter was settled, but I was wrong. He stared at me as I threw another pillow and blanket on the floor on the left side of the bed. What are you doing? I told you to take the bed. He was starting to get annoyed, but I didn't care. I had a long day and I was in total bitch mode. And I told you that I was good, or do you have selective hearing? I stalked over to him and grabbed his pillow to throw back on the bed. Before I could react, he grabbed it and we were engaged in some sort of unwanted tug-of-war. Stop being so stubborn, he ordered in a flat voice as he refused to let go. Only if you stop first. I kept a firm grip on the pillow and yanked it back. It only made him pull harder. You're my guest. I'm not letting you sleep on the floor. Do you kidnap all of your guests? He scoffed. You came on your own. Besides, I've never kidnapped anyone. That's not my style. So you don't count what you did to Luna Alex last winter as kidnapping? Nope. And why not? Because your brother kidnapped her first. Troy suddenly let go, and I tugged so hard that I fell onto my back. Completely exasperated with him, I chucked it at his head and called it a night. I don't want to argue with you anymore. It's like talking to a brick wall. I closed my eyes and shifted to my side. I hope you have sweet nightmares. I expected him to sleep in his bed since it was literally right there and nobody was using it, but he chose to take the floor. At least he was on the other side of the room. It didn't take as long to fall asleep as I thought it would, because the moment that I closed my eyes, I sunk into a deep sleep. I woke up earlier than usual with a full bladder. Troy wasn't in his bedroom but had locked the door from the outside. That bitch. There was no time to wait since I was literally going to have an accident. So I kicked down the door without really caring. It splintered in half and I got through to the other side. I ran around and finally found a bathroom at the end of the hall. It was small and had about 5 different light sources but worked just fine. I splashed water on my face while I was at it and looked at my reflection in the gold mirror. No castle in the whole world boasted this much gold. It was like they were obsessed with it. I ran into Troy on my way back from the bathroom. He was already in his day clothes with his shoes on. He seemed to be heading back to the room. "What are you doing out?" he demanded like I was his pet dog. I brushed past him without sparing him a glance. I had to use the bathroom. Where else was I supposed to go? Troy swore when he saw his broken door. I stepped over the mess and he followed. "Are you blind?" He pointed across the room at his closet, but I just gave him a blank stare. Then he opened it to reveal a spacious ensuite bathroom. "Oops." "Alpha." A servant called outside, then noticed the destruction. "What happened?" Troy covered his closed eyes with his hands. "Just fix it." The servant bowed. "Right away." He set down a tray of fresh food and water on the table and rushed off. The tray. Plates. Cups. Napkins. Silverware. Were all what else? Gold. "Is it always like this with you?" Troy asked. "Pretty much." He sat down at the table and stared at me. I picked at the loose thread on my robe. "Well, don't just stand there. Eat," he commanded. No. I planned to starve myself to death. In truth, I was famished and on the verge of fainting. But I would never let him know that. "You really think that's going to work?" He didn't wait for me as he took a bite out of his bacon and cheese omelet. The smell of the greasy bacon hit my nose and I started salivating. Out of all the ways to die, you would pick something as long and slow as starvation. At least it would be by my choice. Better that than getting murdered. I shot back. My cook spent a lot of money, time and energy preparing all of this food. He cut a piece of sausage with his knife and pointed it at the empty chair across from him. "Don't waste it." It did look like a nice presentation. There was 2 of everything. 2 cups. 2 plates. 2 omelets. 2 sausages. 2 pieces of buttered toast. 2 apples. 2 oranges and even 2 flowers in the glass vase. It was a feast compared to what I usually ate for breakfast, which was nothing. Yet why was he feeding me? I thought he wanted me to be his servant here. I forced myself to sit and eat with him, but only because I didn't want to waste perfectly good food and because I was going to pass out. I didn't know when I would get my next meal. Troy picked up the porcelain teapot, which was the only thing not covered in gold, and moved to pour some tea into my cup. I covered it with my hand. "It's just tea. It'll be the judge of that." Now I was acting like Ares, always on my guard. I sniffed the teapot but didn't detect anything out of the ordinary. I found it a bit out of character for Troy to drink Assam black tea first thing in the morning. I always pictured him having black coffee like Ares. I had hoped that we could eat breakfast in silence, but that wasn't what happened. "We aren't the monsters you think we are," Troy said after swallowing some tea. "Says the one using me for blackmail." I muttered and shoved a quarter of the omelet in my mouth. "And leave the other wolves out of it. They're just taking orders." "Have I hurt you? Have I done anything to you but save your life?" He looked offended. "You killed my parents, or did you think I would forget that little piece of information?" I retorted. "The world doesn't revolve around you." I looked up and was slightly surprised to see that Troy was already staring at me. His amber eyes bored into mine and almost sucked me in. I didn't look away. "What are you looking at?" he finally asked, although not unkindly. "You're in my line of sight." Troy wiped his hands and mouth with a napkin and continued to hold his gaze. "Your parents were no saints. I was doing everyone a favor." I tried not to let the anger consume me. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "Oh, but I do. Ares didn't tell you." "It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that you took away two good people from this world. You left my pack without their leaders. You made me an orphan. For all the pain that you caused, I hope it was worth it." Suddenly, the servant wolf returned and Troy stood up without even acknowledging what I said. "We're going to have a lot of fun today." There were 4 people already in their seats when we entered the pack room. One of them, the Gamma, whose name I thought was Cyrene, shut the door as soon as Troy fell in behind me. Dallas caught me off guard since siblings of the Alpha weren't technically required in pack meetings. At least, Ares never let me attend them. "Here comes the princess of the True Blood pack." Cyrene laughed at me. "Is your brother not coming to rescue you, or is he just running late?" "Claire is a guest. Nobody moves her. Nobody touches her. Nobody even looks at her." "Got it. Good." Troy had no tolerance for her cheekiness. He took his place at the head of the table with Cyrene on his left and a little boy on his right. He started talking about boring pack stuff, and I immediately couldn't help but tune him out. My attention span was shorter than his. Maybe that was why Ares never let me sit in on these things. I looked around the table, but no one was making eye contact with me. Cyrene and Dallas I knew, but there were 2 other strangers in Troy's inner circle. One of them I'd seen before when she came to greet me at the Jackson gates, and the other was a very young boy who probably wouldn't understand anything that was going on. "Why is there a 5-year-old boy here?" I blurted. The boy, who had shiny brown hair and big brown eyes, opened his mouth to bite back, but his alpha silenced him with one stare. "This is Ewan, my beta." I could have sworn his beta wasn't a child the last time I heard, but Troy didn't stop to elaborate. As I was saying, if Diva wants to switch from nursery to patrol, then she'll have to wait another week. They ticked off a couple of to-dos on their list. They lost momentum when they got to me. "What's your plan with her?" Dallas asked. "I'm right here. You know, I was going to blow up just standing here being totally ignored." "Then maybe you shouldn't be." Well, that got my blood boiling. "Look, you, Claire." A voice whispered sternly, and it took me a moment to realize that it was Troy in my head. The audacity of him using the mind link. "Don't make things difficult." Things were difficult as soon as we met. How is that my fault? Everything is your fault. If I could punch him through the link, I would have. I thought mates were supposed to fall in love at first sight and be instant best friends. Ares and Alex had that typical love story. But me, I'd never met anyone I hated more in my entire life. "We will follow the treaty that Dallas signed." Troy decided, and the matter was apparently settled. Liar, I thought sourly. Fucking liar. "I'm not lying." Troy objected immediately. "Get out of my head." I screamed at him and he winced. "Volume. Please." "No. You won't listen to me otherwise." "You good." Dallas noticed Troy wince. "Peachy," he said irritably, then changed the subject. "How did Ares seem at the Alpha Ball?" "He would have ripped me in half if it weren't for his mate. She's got him wrapped around her little finger." He was talking about Luna Alex, and I hated to admit it, but I agreed with him. Alex was the only person my brother listened to, it seemed. He wouldn't even listen to me. And that's a weakness we can use to our advantage. That was Troy. Always scheming, always thinking of another angle. That was why I found it impossible that he didn't already have a plan for what to do with me yet. He ended the meeting there and released his wolves to their duties for the day. They had replaced Troy's bedroom door along with its golden hinges when we came back. However, his room was exactly how he left it. Messy sheets and cups everywhere. Troy dropped me off like I was some child going to preschool. Oh, and you're liable for anything else you break. So think twice before you decide to destroy any more doors. Once he was gone, Dallas shoved me through the doorway without warning and I almost tripped on the rug. It was hard to choose who I hated more, him or his brother. It wasn't any different than when I was at school. Being told to stay in a room, being told not to cause any trouble, even being told when to eat. This may have been a golden cage, but it was still a cage. I went to go open the window to at least feel the wind on my face, but they had locked the windows shut, probably to prevent me from trying to jump out again. I stood there and stared at the trees. My wolf was itching to phase again. There wasn't much to do, so I looked through Troy's things. Some might call it an invasion of privacy, but I really didn't care about his boundaries since he obviously didn't care about mine. I found some real interesting stuff like old photographs and notes that looked like some sort of master plan buried in his bureau. I was busy riffling through the photos when the door opened up. "Join us for dinner." One thing about Troy was that he didn't ask. He commanded. His dominance reminded me of another certain alpha. "I don't think your pack wants me there." "Since when do you care what other people think?" I tried again. "How do I know this isn't some sort of execution? That you're really just going to kill me the minute I leave this room?" "You think it would happen in the evening?" I didn't know executions had a set time. They're usually scheduled for 8 in the morning. That way we can dispose of the body within the day. Lovely. I glared at him and he smirked back. How could I hate and love someone so much at the same time? "The difference is I would never do anything that would end up with you getting hurt," he had said. Was I supposed to believe that? If I were Ares, and I was so happy I was not, would he trust him? Hell no. If I wanted another person to control me, I would have called my brother. Ares and I used to be close. I remembered when we would phase and be out exploring the woods for hours until our parents called us in for dinner. Rain or shine, summer or winter. We would step over every inch of our land and make up adventures as we went along. Sometimes we'd compete to see who could hunt the most squirrels. But then our parents died and he changed. His heart froze over and vengeance was the only thing on his mind. That was, until Alex came into his life. You know, Alex has more balls than you. Everyone wanted to kill you, and while you were cowering for your life, she was the one who saved you. You owe her. He didn't have anything to say to that. Go figure. Troy combed his hair and made himself more presentable before heading downstairs. It was the first time I noticed him putting some sort of moisturizer under his eyes to look more awake. I'll have Dallas bring up a tray. As long as I didn't have to talk to him. He left, and not a minute later, Dallas was there as promised. He set down a gold tray of 4 types of meat. Lamb, beef, pork and deer. There were also 2 bottles of red and white wine. It was way more elaborate than breakfast. That was for sure. Is he trying to get me drunk so I'll spill all my secrets? I couldn't help but ask. I'd like to think I'm good at reading people, Dallas said instead. It doesn't take long for me to study someone in the same room and catch when they tell the smallest lie. He touched the stubble on his chin, or when they suppress their feelings towards another person. Once I opened the bottle of wine and put the cork on the tray. I poured myself a tall glass of red. You want any? No. He shook his head and continued his little monologue. I knew something was off when I met you 2 at the border. The way Troy acted around you. I've known him long enough to tell when he was hiding something. Because if it were me, I wouldn't have hesitated to treat you with the same hospitality that you had treated me. I drank about half of the glass before I decided to try the white. I don't want to babysit you. I have better things to do than watch you do absolutely nothing the entire day. But I'm the only person he wants to be alone with you. I'm the only person who has his complete trust, and for him to require that for you. A stranger. An enemy, no less. Well, that's out of character for him. I needed another glass. It already nervously drank 1.5 glasses while he was talking. Then I noticed you two having a secret conversation through the mind link today at the meeting, and it clicked. Dallas stared at me accusingly, and I tried to keep my face neutral. Crap. Troy slipped up. You're his mate. Deny. 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 Dallas didn't know what he was talking about. There was no way he could have figured it out so fast. He was imagining things. He was talking nonsense. No. Not a good idea. I panicked. Head see right through me. Act normal. Play dumb. It always worked for me. Are you trying to think of a good lie? Dallas stared at me, but I didn't let him intimidate me. You know what? Why would I spend so much energy just to lie to him? He wasn't worth it. Congratulations. You finally figured it out, I said sarcastically. The only reason I was keeping it a secret was because I didn't want it getting out to my own pack. But realistically, who was Dallas going to tell? It wasn't like he was buddy-buddy with Aries. So what if someone knew? What could he do about it? This may have been his house, but I wouldn't be forced to feel small. I'd been so anxious for nothing. In fact, I felt like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. What will you do with this information? I acted unfazed. That's up to Troy. He left the tray on the table and closed the door after saying, We never had this conversation. I didn't know what time it was when Troy started yelling in his sleep. At first he was quiet and shifting around in his bed. I only woke up and learned that he was having a nightmare when he kicked off the blankets and they landed on me. Then he began to talk. No. Troy, I whispered in the dark. He moved around and it was hard to tell what he was saying. It sounded like he was being chased by someone. Get away from me, he mumbled in a desperate tone. Get away. He sounded scared. It was hard to picture an alpha as cruel as Troy being terrified of anything, especially something as small as a nightmare. This wasn't the same Troy that terrorized our pack. This Troy was alone and broken. His demons weren't done haunting him. Shane told me that you weren't supposed to wake someone who was having a night terror, but I didn't care. My sleep was too important. No. Troy shouted and I hurled a pillow at him. He instantly woke up and it was like the spell had been broken. Any trace of fear was wiped from his voice, and all that was left was anger. What the fuck? He demanded and turned on the lamp on his nightstand to see what was happening. What the fuck is right? You woke me up with your fucking screaming. I was pissed. I hadn't been able to get a good night's sleep in weeks. What are you talking about? Do you not know how much noise you were making a minute ago? You were screaming in your sleep like a maniac. I sighed in frustration. What were you dreaming about anyway? He didn't say anything for a moment. Did you hear what I said? Not really. Good. He slept without a shirt, so when he faced me to turn the lights back off, I saw the many scars decorating his toned chest. He had the most that I'd seen on anyone. I didn't even have to ask. Half of these scars are courtesy of your brother. He pointed to the worst-looking one, which looked like a huge claw mark stretching from his clavicle down across to his navel. This one was when we were both 12. This one was when he attacked me at a party. This one was when that hunter bitch shot me with an arrow. It was jarring to see his otherwise perfect and glowing skin so messed up. I tried to imagine what he would have looked like if he hadn't been the instigator. I'm guessing the other side looks worse. I don't have any on my back. And why not? I yawned and rested my head on my pillow. Not really interested anymore. Because I never turn away from my enemy. No. You just slaughter them without a care in the world. The lights went out and I was enveloped in pure darkness. I felt a pillow hit the floor next to me. Don't wake me again. We didn't talk for the rest of the night. The next day he was back to his regular self. Almost as if last night hadn't happened. The servants brought breakfast up like normal, but I didn't touch any of it. Troy gave me a history lesson while he buttered his toast. I did my best to tune him out. Did you know that a long time ago, my pack gave some of its land to yours as a gift? Troy said. We were here for centuries while yours was on the verge of extinction. We asked for nothing in return and my pack was seen as weak for it. Yes. I learned about that maybe a dozen times. I mumbled with my eyes closed. Troy kept going. My cruelty has kept my pack alive. It is because of my name that my wolves are not looked down on as the bottom of the food chain. He noticed that I still wasn't eating anything and pushed the tray towards my empty chair, the spot I was supposed to be at. I'm not hungry. At least drink something. He poured 2 cups of hot tea. Why tea? What is your aversion to tea? You just don't seem like the type. You seem more like the crack open 2 Red Bulls and chug them at 6 a.m. type. I used to drink coffee, but Fallon said it fucked with my sleep, so I switched. I didn't care enough to ask who that was. Is it working? He didn't want to answer me. I looked back at Troy to argue some more, but it was then that I realized that he looked exhausted. The area under his eyes had always been a bit dark and tired-looking, but in this light, it was very visible. His hair was all over the place and his skin was so pale that I could see his veins. It was more than nightmares. Something else was wrong. How late do you stay up? I changed the subject. It was hard not to notice that he was still awake when I fell asleep. His breathing didn't change throughout the night. I never sleep. Never. Never. He was an insomniac then, no. It was more Roman, one of our strongest wolves, had that same ravaged look. He had PTSD from watching a pup no older than 4 die right in front of him. He couldn't sleep for more than 3 hours a night and resembled a walking corpse. Soren tried giving him herbs to help with his anxiety, but they didn't seem to work. The only single thing that helped him move on was talking about it. I finally got it. You have PTSD. Head, seen so much death, and now it was piling up and up. What? Come on. You must know what that is. I sat up and leaned back on my palms. Troy scoffed. I know what it is. I'm saying that I don't have it. Wolves don't get PTSD. There's nothing wrong with needing help. Just drop it. He snapped. Temper. Temper. He had a short fuse just like Ares. Then why don't you sleep? He let my words hang in the air. I wasn't surprised. He would never tell me anything about his personal life. But at least I knew the invincible. Merciless Alpha had a weakness. Get up. Troy towered over me with his hands on his hips. It was 2 in the afternoon and I refused to get up off of the floor. I was still wearing my nightrobe and comfortably cocooned in my blankets. Why bother? You're just going to keep me in this room. It never felt more useless. Dallas was right. All I did was nothing. Troy crouched down to my level and put the back of his hand on my forehead. I hadn't expected him to do that. Are you sick? What? No. When I said that, he reached around me and lifted me into his arms. I immediately stiffened. What are you doing? My arms instinctively went around his neck in case he dropped me. He carried me over to the table and set me down. I stared at him weirdly. Suddenly, a string of servants came in equipped with trays of food. What's this? I asked as I waited for the last one to enter, but they kept going. Lunch, Troy said in an obvious voice. It was more food than anything they served while I was here before. More than breakfast. More than dinner. There were at least 10 different trays, and that was only the food. There were 3 others full of drinks, and another for condiments and garnishes. The table wasn't big enough, so they had to put some on his dresser in the end tables. It was a bit excessive, but if he were making a statement, then consider it made. Are you feeding an army? I didn't know what you liked, so I ordered everything. My eyes narrowed. Troy let out a deep breath and waited until everyone cleared out. I'm trying to welcome you. I'm not really good at this. Troy scratched his neck, almost nervous. Okay. That was sweet, but I momentarily forgot who I was talking to. I didn't touch any of the food. I don't want anything from you. Except a rejection. Who knew what his plan for me was? Unless you'd rather deal with Ares. Your brother's a fucking bastard. Is that any way to speak to a young lady? Troy. A stern voice asked sharply, and Troy spun around. Clearly shocked. 2 people. A man and a woman. Were standing side by side. Their faces were neutral. Mom. Dad. Well, Troy's mother, or at least who I assumed was his mother, demanded with her hands on her hips. Aren't you going to introduce us? I immediately jumped out of my seat and bowed. I grimaced when I looked down at myself. My appearance was embarrassing. My face was oily. My hair was frizzy and unbrushed. And I was still wearing the same robe I'd been sleeping in. But how was I supposed to know his parents were going to make an appearance? It was shocking to think he had parents, both of whom were alive, no less. Troy barely greeted them. Why are you here? Not even a hello, Mom. Hello, Dad. His mother continued to grill him. Troy was a terrible alpha and a terrible mate. Figured he'd also be a terrible son. Hello. Hello? His mom interrupted before he could say anything else. How have you been for the past year? Troy. Good. And how is the pack faring in your leadership? His father joined in. Good. Small talk was killing him, I could tell. Did you miss us? She pursed her lips. What are you doing here? I thought you weren't coming back for 2 more months. Answer your mother. Troy's father commanded. I studied his parents while they were busy disciplining their son. His father was tall with very broad shoulders and his dirty blonde hair streaked with white. His mother was as tall as her mate and thin. Troy got his amber eyes from his mother. There was an obvious resemblance to Troy in both of his parents, but did they share his cruel personality? Yes. Troy said through gritted teeth. What are you doing here? Was your vacation too boring for you? Dallas told us the news and we came to see if it were true. Troy's father explained. News. What was he talking about? Unless. Troy's amber eyes went straight to me. So did both of his parents. This is the girl. He asked his son, and my cheeks burned. I wanted nothing more than to scream that I hated him with every inch of my being. This is Claire. Troy cleared his throat. The future, Luna. He forced a smile onto his face as his parents studied me. It was a strange, unnatural sight. So this is the future Luna of our pack. His mother scrutinized me. I held her piercing stare. She had the presence of a real Luna. She was also pretty tall, which made me feel even more inferior. She kind of scared me. His mother's face broke into a wide grin, making her whole aura change. Perfect. Shall do finally, she said joyously. I almost stopped breathing. She walked over and gave me a quick warm hug. I hesitantly hugged her back, albeit a little confused. For some fleeting moment, I had thought she was going to yell at me or something. Sahara. Previous Luna of the Jackson pack. She touched my arm affectionately and smiled. Cairo. His father hugged me too instead of a handshake like I was used to with an alpha. He also left out his title. Welcome to the family. They were both glowing with excitement. It was almost uncomfortable. Nice to meet you, I said to be polite, although I had never expected his parents would be happy to have a true blood as their Luna and two. I had never ever in 1,000 years expected to even dare meet his parents in the first place. Were these the same people related to Troy? This Troy over here. It would have been nice to hear the news from Troy himself. Cairo put his arm around his mate. Yes. It seems he forgot to mention that little detail, I said, and spared Troy a quick look. His face seemed to scream fuck off. It seems so, Sahara said, then her eyes brightened to liquid gold. We shall hold a homecoming feast tonight. Feast. Troy and I froze at the same time. A special homecoming feast to honor the future Luna. Of course, Cairo explained, and I shot Troy a terrified look. We will plan the coronation and induction as a separate party to celebrate your reign. I really don't think that's necessary. Troy started to argue, but was interrupted by his mother. Claire deserves to have a proper welcome. I hope our son has been more than hospitable towards you, Sahara said while shooting her son a death glare. Oh, of course, I lied. He was very hospitable. Brilliant. The party will begin at 6 p.m. sharp, Sahara told me, and I nodded. And Troy, for goddess sake, remember your manners, she scolded, and they both turned to leave. I guess we're having a party tonight. Troy scowled. So much for no one knowing about you. I shared the same doomed reaction. Ares would certainly hear about this. Let's just get this over with. Ares rarely had parties at the castle. The only time he allowed them was for inductions, holidays, or very special occasions. Troy told me to stay in my room the whole time and not to talk to anyone but him. Not even his parents. He sent a servant to help me with my hair and outfit, but I sent her away. I chose a red dress, one that Troy specifically said not to wear. It came mid-thigh with a thin mesh overlay barely reaching my ankles. The dress had a lace bodice and off-shoulder straps, which meant no bra, with a pair of red 3-inch heels and gold sparkling jewels. I knew I looked hot. This dress was one of the most revealing I'd ever worn. Troy had told me to pick one that was floor-length with long sleeves, but I honestly didn't want to listen to him anymore. I heard a knock on the door and I froze. Are you ready yet? You've been in there for hours, Troy muttered under his breath. Come in. I ignored that comment and rolled my eyes. Troy walked in with a sleek black suit that flattered his muscular body. His normally blonde hair looked brown when it was slicked back. I hated to say it, but I was physically attracted to him. Everyone's waiting for us, so you better, Troy gaped at me, running his eyes over my body. Hurry up, he finished, swallowing. I'm ready, I replied, walking up to where he stood. He blinked. I thought I made it clear that the dress was supposed to cover your legs. Why? Is this making you uncomfortable? I asked with my hands on my hips. I usually wasn't so bold. I was always the little obedient girl who always followed the rules. I was confident, but not too confident. My brother would call it sass. He faltered for a second, looking at my bare legs. He was obviously affected, until he regained his common sense and growled. "I won't have other wolves looking at you," he said possessively, and my wolf hummed to life. "Change." "No," I defied. "Change," he commanded, using his alpha command on me. I couldn't believe he just used his command on me. "I can do whatever I want, and you can't stop me," I snapped, angry that he tried to use his status to force me to change dresses. For a second, I had no idea what he was going to do. Surprisingly, he just gave up. "I'll deal with you later." Troy and I made our way down to the dining room. It was pretty big, way bigger than ours, with all of the wolves standing above their seats. All eyes were on me as I entered. In fact, every single person was staring at me. "Welcome, our future Luna Claire." Cairo's voice echoed off the golden walls, and I smiled politely. Secretly, I hated them as they were our enemy. Cairo raised his glass and everyone did the same. "To the Alpha and his Luna. Long may they reign." Wolves of all ages clapped and clinked glasses with one another as Troy and I took our seats. He was at the head of the table with me by his side. Dallas was next to me on my left, while Iris, who had been dying to talk with, was next to him. Everyone else sat down and food was served. I picked up my wine glass and took a light sip of the champagne. Cairo and Sahara were across from me and chatting away. Sahara complimented my dress around 20 times. "I'm very excited to see the faces of my future grandchildren," Sahara said in a happy voice. Wine got caught in my throat and I ended up choking. It took a few seconds for me to cough it back up. "Mother," Troy shouted, looking annoyed. "What?" Sahara asked innocently, looking from me to Troy. "The pack needs heirs." "Has a monster. A cruel, bloodthirsty monster. Troy and I just met. We haven't even kissed yet," I said matter-of-factly, and Troy's attention snapped onto me. I could tell he wanted to murder someone, probably me. "Of course. There's no need to rush. Leave them be." "Sahara," Cairo interjected. "For now." Sahara smiled at me like she had a plan that had yet to unravel. The feast part was over, and we all moved into another area of the castle. Someone dimmed the lights and music began to play. The room became an energetic powerhouse. I watched the wolves dance. I tried to see heartless killers and evil psychopaths, but they were just like the wolves in my pack. Ordinary people. Iris caught my eye, and I subconsciously took a couple of steps toward her. "Claire." Troy walked up to me and offered his hand. "Dance with me." I kept my face neutral and didn't move from my spot. "My mother wanted me to ask you," he said through gritted teeth. There was the Troy I knew. Always such a gentleman. I drew out the suspense as long as possible just to get on his nerves. "Fine. But only because your mother asked." I tormented him a little, but he wasn't fazed. I took his hand and felt a spark as soon as we touched. I wished it would stop doing that. Just my luck. A slow song began the same time we stepped onto the dance floor. His wolves cleared a path as the two of us headed to the floor. I spotted his parents looking at us from the corner of my eye. I tried not to slap Troy when he wrapped his arms around my waist. Unfortunately, we were in view of so many people that I had to pretend not to hate him and clasp my hands around his neck. I was in enemy territory. I had to be on my best behavior. How does a person with such good parents and a perfect home end up as a murderous psychopath? I asked, keeping my voice light. How does a person whose parents were killed and a shithead alpha brother end up as a somewhat stable wolf? Is that a compliment? Shut up. He actually wasn't a bad dancer. He didn't step on my feet or hold me too tight like I thought he would. He held me just right. He was actually kind of attractive in this light. It's no thanks to you, I added. You make my life a living hell. Just remember, I can always make it much worse. He twirled me around, and that was when I noticed Iris dancing next to us with Dallas. But before I could pull her aside, someone else got in my face. An older man with a muscular build and graying brown hair interrupted our dance. Get out of my home. True blood whore. Troy's eyes flared with rage. He wasted no time in confronting my aggressor. He grabbed the guy by the front of his suit and threw him across the floor 10 feet away. I was completely bewildered, not because he had done that, but because he had done that on my behalf. Don't speak to my mate like that ever. Again. I knew his wolf was speaking now because Troy the man would never say that. Murmurs erupted in the dance hall. Most were sympathetic. Only a few were skeptical. I stood still for what felt like an eternity. I can't believe he did that in such a public setting. I wonder what Alpha is going to do to him now. Did he say true blood? Sahara interjected before any blood was spilled, and I was grateful a civil third party like his mother stepped in. Apologize. Now, Sahara demanded, but that only made the man angrier. Are you blind? She's a fucking true blood cunt who has no place in this pack. He was practically spitting in Troy's face. Excuse us. Cairo separated him from us, but not before bowing and addressing the small crowd that had formed to watch. Carry on. He dragged the man outside, and that was that. You two. Come with me. Sahara told us quietly, and we followed her out of the big dance hall. She escorted us into a private office and closed the door. Anger was still radiating off of Troy as he paced back and forth. Sahara was harder to read. We weren't aware that you had ties to the True Blood pack. She began. You're the daughter of the late Alpha Carlisle and late Luna Autumn. Aren't you? There was no point in hiding it. Yes. I am. She nodded once. Would they still like me despite knowing where I came from? Or would they torture me like all the other True Blood wolves? I felt a hand on my shoulder. Claire, I know what you must think of us and what you must think of our son. But the truth is that we don't care that you're a True Blood. You cannot choose your pack, so you should not be ostracized for it. The past is the past, and we would like for it to stay that way. Of course she would like to bury the past. It was easy for her and her family to pretend that they didn't traumatize me and Ares. Your son murdered my parents and took them away from me. That's not something I can just forget. It's because of him that I'm in hiding. It's because of him that I have no family. I glared at Troy, and for a split second his demeanor changed. But then he went back to his angry brooding. I understand, Sahara said gently. I didn't mean to suggest that you forget everything that happened, but perhaps only to keep an open mind. Then she dropped the subject. I would also like to apologize on behalf of Oslo's behavior. He was always one to keep grudges, especially towards your pack, which I am very sorry for. She did sound genuine in her apology, but it didn't sound right coming from her. Please enjoy the rest of the party. Troy, I would like to have a word in private. I left the room but didn't join the other wolves in the dance hall. I wasn't in the mood for any more fake smiles tonight. But guess who I ran into on the way up the stairs? Dallas was coming towards me with a scowl on his face like always. He looked like he was in a rush. Why did you tell your parents about me? I asked as I passed Dallas. He continued down the hallway without even acknowledging me. I turned around with my hands in fists. What was his problem? Hey, I'm talking to you. He stopped walking but didn't face me. The only reason I'm being civil towards you is because of Iris. Yeah, I get that, I rolled my eyes. And Troy, he admitted. Why would that matter? Troy hates me. Just like you and the rest of the Jackson pack hated me. Troy could change all he wanted, but I knew in my heart that he didn't give a shit about me. Dallas finally turned around. Ever since our beta died, Troy hasn't been the same. Ez acting more distant and his behavior has been reckless. Even for him. So what? You want me to fix him? The balls of him to expect me to do that. Hez a grown man. He can fix himself. No. Not fix. Then what? He changed the subject. To answer your question, I told our parents because I wanted them to hear the news from either me or Troy. And he doesn't hate you. He's just good at hiding how he really feels. Dallas turned around and hurried back to where he was going. The interaction left me downright confused of all things. Once I got back to Troy's room, I locked myself in the bathroom and ran the tub with boiling hot water. I couldn't describe how nice it was to submerge myself and wash away every single thing that had clung to my skin. It was a deep cleanse that I desperately needed. Especially after tonight. I was expecting someone to come and watch me, but nobody did. The peace and quiet felt strange in this place. Troy was back when I got out. He wasted no time in taking his gold watch and accessories off and leaving them in a pile on his vanity. Take the bed. I was too tired to argue. I put on the nightgown that was laid out for me and crept under the covers. What? No objections this time, he commented. I'm not stupid. Arguing with you is pointless. Could have fooled me, he muttered with his back to me. I watched as he hung up my dress and placed the red heels I'd worn into its box. He did some housekeeping with the jewelry I'd worn, but he didn't change into his sleeping clothes. Guessed he was going to stay up for a bit. I closed my eyes and started drifting off. I didn't want to admit it, but it was much better than sleeping on the floor. I'm sorry about Oslo. Has been unhinged ever since he became third in line for the crown. He was saying, but I wasn't listening. Whatever. Hell pay for threatening you. I'm the only one who can do that. I honestly don't care. I was trying to go to sleep here. Cairo is speaking with him still, so when he's done, I'll have a talk with him myself. It's about time I put him in his place again. My parents will want to do something tomorrow before they go back to their partying, and now that there's going to be a new addition to the family, they'll want to spend more time together. My eyes shot wide open. What? I demanded and sat up to meet his eyes. He looked otherwise unfazed at what Head just said. I just found out an hour ago. Dallas Maid is pregnant. Iris Reyes, our old Delta, was pregnant with Troy's brother's demon child. Holy crap, that was fast. I'd known Iris since forever. She always treated me like a sister. Probably because she was born to be by my brother's side if he didn't find his mate. I looked at her and thought that was how a Luna should be. My parents only had daughters. Iris had once told me, which means you will most definitely find your mate. And she was right, because I did find them. I felt the bed dip, and my entire body froze. That could only be one person. What are you doing? I asked Troy. Keeping up appearances. Now move over. No. No way. I was already settled in the middle of the bed. I would rather die than share a bed with him. You told me to take the bed. It's for my parents. If they hear from the servants that we aren't sleeping in the same bed, they'll think that something is wrong. Something's wrong. Troy tried pulling the sheets back, but my death grip was keeping them in place. I was prepared to lay on them and wrap myself up just so he wouldn't get any. He soon gave up, and there was no movement coming from the opposite side of the bed. I peeked one eye open, and he was sleeping on his side with his back to me. Of course, he had no shirt on. Ugh, stop it. Stop what? I can feel you glaring at me. I rolled my eyes and shut them. My body was as close to the edge of the bed as humanly possible. I didn't even want to accidentally touch him in my sleep. I couldn't think of anything worse. A good chunk of time had passed when words cut through the silence. At least I'm trying. His words came out of nowhere. I was drifting off into a deep sleep, and then he says something stupid like that. You're just keeping me as a hostage to hold over Aries. Nothing more, I mumbled. Trying would be rejecting me. I couldn't think of any hostage who has so many privileges. Name one privilege. You're alive. I remembered what Dallas had said. He doesn't hate you. He's just good at hiding how he really feels. You couldn't kill me even if you tried. Troy moved, and he moved quickly. He produced a knife out of what seemed like thin air, and I barely gasped as the cool metal was pressed to my neck. His amber eyes glowed in the dark. My wolves obey me, but if I step back and let them kill you, they would. And I would feel nothing. Don't presume to know me when you don't. His hot breath fanned my face. Only if you follow your own advice. He pressed the blade deeper into my neck. I wanted to fight back and push my foot into his throat. Hurry up. What? He faltered. Hurry up. I picked my head up so that the blade sank deeper into the very vulnerable skin. Do it. Kill me. Here was his chance. He could slaughter me in the dark right here. Right now. He would never have the opportunity like this again. The knife was removed from my neck almost immediately. Calling his bluff was a risk, but it paid off tenfold. His cards were bleeding now. I knew you couldn't do it. And now he knew that I wasn't scared of dying. Losing your parents at 11 years old made you a little unhinged, unfortunately. He adjusted the sheets so that they were even. Go to bed. We didn't talk about last night. I sat up, and Troy was already washed, dressed and drinking his usual tea. His tired eyes and dull skin indicated that he'd been awake for hours. Another sleepless night for him, then. The knife that had pressed into the side of my neck last night was nowhere to be seen. The only thing Id managed to do was put on my slippers when someone knocked on the door, although we weren't expecting anyone. What is it? Troy asked impatiently. I wanted to check in with the future Luna. Sahara revealed herself from behind the door. I relaxed. She's awake. Hi. I waved. When she saw me, she smiled brightly. Good morning. She walked inside and clapped her hands together. Well, that wasn't the only reason. Cairo wants to talk to you in our bedroom for a short bit. Troy. In the meantime, Claire and I can chit-chat. She ushered him out of the room. Shall be in safe hands. She shut the door, and Troy was officially gone. It's been so long since I've stepped foot in his room. I almost forgot what it looked like. Troy rarely lets people in here. Sahara looked around at the mess but didn't say anything about it. This was actually our room before. He said that you've been traveling for a long time. Yes. Cairo and I haven't seen the pack in 3 years. We were worried how you were all faring, but imagine my surprise when we found out so many things have changed. Both of my boys have found their mates. Isn't that grand? Not the word I'd use. It has its moments. I managed to force out. Oh, Claire. You're so funny. She laughed freely. Then she sat down on Troy's unmade bed and patted the space next to her. Now, dear. I must speak seriously with you for a minute. I sat down and she grabbed my hands. I shouldn't have been nervous, but I was. How old are you? I'm 17. I turn 18 in December. I see. She didn't skip a beat. And have you completed the mate bond? Oh, moon goddess, help me. The last thing I wanted to do with his mother was talk about our sex life. Or lack thereof. No. I managed to force out. I assume you and Troy haven't talked about children then? Another no. These things take time. I know. She looked down and smiled. And with you and Troy barely tolerating each other, it will take a bit longer. I was about to ask how she knew that, but she beat me to it. A mother always knows. I wondered what my mother would think about this whole situation if she were still here. Would she be as kind to Troy as his mother was with me? My oldest son is strong and proud, but he tends to suffer in silence. Death affects him just as much as it affects you and me. She met my eyes, still smiling. Claire, I speak for both me and Cairo when I say we are extremely proud to have you join your pack. I know it must be hard for you considering our past, but we will support you as best as we can. I wasn't sure how to feel. It wasn't like his mother had killed my parents, but I still held contempt for anyone related to Troy. Join us for breakfast, she exclaimed out of nowhere. Oh, I don't know. I'm not that hungry. Besides, was I even welcome down there now that everyone knew where I came from? You don't have to eat anything. Your company would be more than enough. Well, it was better than sitting here doing nothing, I guessed. Okay. It'll be down in a few minutes. Can't have the future Luna showing up like this. I reluctantly agreed, and it was like I made her the happiest person on earth. Splendid. Take your time. I'll save a seat for you. She hugged me and left Troy's room. A breeze skimmed my skin, and my eyes went to the window where the curtains were going crazy in the wind. I looked out at the view in front of me. Not too long ago, this was where I had gambled my life and tried to jump. Just beyond the trees and across the border was where my family resided. I couldn't help but wonder if Ares was already searching for me. I could do it. All I had to do was phase and I'd be home. I walked over to the window and shut the curtains so that the cold air wouldn't spread. I brushed my teeth, brushed my hair, and put on the clothes that were laid out on the ottoman for me. Then I opened the door and made my way down the hallway. It was only my second time walking around without an escort of some kind. Fake it until you make it. Wasn't that the human phrase? I pulled my shoulders back and tried to walk with purpose. Everyone would be there. I had to show them. Fingers wrapped around my upper arm and pulled me so forcefully that I was knocked off balance. Hey, I protested as I stumbled into another room. I looked around for the threat, but I found a familiar face instead. Iris. I've been looking for a way to talk to you ever since Dallas said you were here. Her mate was an ass, but I didn't say that. Took you long enough. Give me some credit. Do you know how hard it is separating you from the alpha who also happens to be your mate? Gah. Don't say that. This was a nice big bedroom they had here. Not as flashy or messy as Troy's, but very well decorated. Picture frames of Iris and Dallas adorned their bedroom, and I wanted to barf. Seeing him happy made me a little annoyed. You smell weird. Pregnant wolves had a certain scent compared to everyone else. So it's true. She nodded. With her flat stomach, she didn't look pregnant at all. We wanted to keep it a secret for as long as possible. We're going to make an official announcement tonight. You're really going to have a baby with him? Yes. Claire. Who else would I have them with? She deadpanned. That's not what I meant. Hez Troy's brother. You know, the Troy who killed my parents and dozens of our wolves. She looked at me with her unwavering violet eyes. I was born to bear heirs for your brother, but what you didn't know was that I thought he was the one. I loved him like my own mate. I grew up believing that my destiny was him. It was strange hearing her use the word loved. She was normally so serious. But then I met Dallas and it all changed. What are you saying? Things change. People can change. Bullshit. People don't change unless they want to. It was pointless even trying. Not until they have something to change for. All I wanted was a mate. I just wanted one person to feel my absence in a crowded room. I just wanted one person who understood the real me and didn't try to change me. My parents had drilled into me the myth of having a soulmate. Humans weren't too sold on the idea, but in our world, it was all true. I caught myself dreaming of our first meeting, a fleeting moment in which our souls would finally meet after years of being apart. Our story would begin, and we would look back on it fondly. I had dreamed that one day my mate would come for me and take me away from the emptiness that was my sad little life. Not many years ago, when my days were long and lonely, I would pray to the moon goddess for a mate every chance that I got. My parents were gone and my brother had grown cold. I had nobody else. It was the only hope that kept me going. But those dreams were fractured the moment that I met Troy. How did I get so unlucky? What did I do wrong? My mate was supposed to be the solution to my problems, not the cause of them. Everyone had a mate, and mine was a dud. I wanted to scream and cry and scream some more. We don't always get what we want now, do we? When I exited Iris' room and came down for breakfast in the dining hall, Troy wasn't there. He must have still been talking with his father. There were so many people in the dining hall that it almost caught me off guard. People were talking very animatedly compared to the way we would eat back home. Children were running around and laughing while the adults were drinking and throwing food across the table. It felt like I was interrupting their routine. Claire. His mother saved me from awkwardly standing there any longer. She nodded at the chair across from her. Come sit by me. By now, everyone was aware that I was in the room and looking at me like I'd grown two heads. The old man who called me a whore was staring daggers at me and wasn't even trying to hide it. As I walked over and sat down, I recognized some more faces like the 5-year-old Beta Ewan and their healer, Fallon. Unfortunately for me, Cyrene and Dallas were sitting on our side of the table, too. Have a blueberry muffin. Claire. Giles made a perfect batch. Sahara put one down on the plate in front of me. There was already a few slices of cheese. Avocado. Potato hash. Spinach, scrambled eggs. Grapes, and an entire loaf of bread on it. I figured it'd save you a bit of everything before they inhaled it all. This is amazing. Thank you. Thank Giles. He's one of our best chefs. But I'm sure you knew that already. Dallas got up from his seat as soon as I picked up my fork. Finished so soon? Sahara asked. My mate is waiting for me. He said simply, and headed into the kitchen. No matter how hard I tried, I still couldn't picture him as a father. I wasn't very hungry when I had come down, but looking at all the delicious food in front of me made my appetite instantly return. I started with the food on my plate first and then grabbed some honey-glazed ham and cereal. It's so beautiful out. We should do something with our wolves today, Sahara said. Claire. Cyrene. What do you say? Oh. I don't know, I said. I wasn't really a fan of the cold nor being in proximity of Cyrene. She reminded me a bit of Layla, though at least with Layla I could avoid her. Cyrene was the Gamma and always lurking in the halls. Fortunately, Cyrene turned her down. Too. I would like to, but I have a busy day ahead, so I'm not sure if I'll have the time. I see. What's on your to-do list? I have to collect herbs with Fallon in the mountains, then I have to hunt with Oslo and Hector. Then I have to train and help patrol. Oh. I'm sure they can handle it for a few minutes. Cyrene took a big bite so she wouldn't have to answer. Is this seat taken? Beautiful. Cairo hugged Sahara from behind and kissed her cheek. It is all yours. Handsome. Sahara purred. Her mate sat down next to her while the chair at the head of the table remained empty. Are you doing anything after breakfast? I have nothing planned. Well, I was thinking, since it's a sunny day, wouldn't it be a great idea if you... Me. Claire. Troy. Cyrene and perhaps whoever else wants to join go outside and phase for a bit. That's an excellent idea. I've been feeling cooped up in here. Cairo smiled. We ate some more and sat for a bit until the pair of them looked like they had digested enough. You know, without Troy here, it wasn't so bad. Come on. Sahara stood up and touched my shoulder. Let's have some fun. Both Sahara and Cairo were light. Sandy-colored wolves, with the only difference being that Cairo had some white near his snout and paws. In the sunlight, they looked golden. Cyrene and I stood off to the side and watched the two of them from afar. They chased each other around and pretended to bite one another. It was healthy to play as wolves from time to time, as every wolf knew it was bad to go a long span without phasing. But as much fun as they were having, a big silence passed between me and Cyrene. We had absolutely nothing in common. It was only when they stopped playing and laid in the snow that she sighed. This is a waste of time. I could be doing something productive. Cyrene muttered under her breath. I kind of agreed. Although this was probably the most productive thing I'd done in weeks. I was shivering so violently that I could only nod. Oh. The princess can't handle a little cold. Cyrene taunted. I'm just not used to it. It was probably 25 degrees Fahrenheit, which was no more than a light breeze to most wolves. But the cold affected me differently. She snorted. Probably because you've been pampered your whole life. If by pampered you mean sent away at 11 years old to live with humans, then sure. I was pampered. I rolled my eyes. I was born into my rank just like you. Gamma. Gamma was a royal rank that came with its own power and prestige. It was definitely a better turnout than a common wolf. I earned my rank. I've fought for my pack and made sacrifices to protect them. What have you done for yours? I'm here talking to you. I wanted to slap her, but we were too visible. I could tear you to shreds, but since we have a treaty, it would be noble of me to respect the terms of peace. Tear me to shreds, she huffed. Honey, you couldn't even touch me. You don't know anything about me. People assume that since I am young and a girl and, yes, the alpha's little sister, that I must be naive and sheltered and helpless. But I know pain and I know grief, just like everyone else in this world. I've seen people die right in front of me, sometimes even for me. Yes, your parents died. How tragic, she said unsympathetically. At least you were too young to really know them. My brother died a year ago and we were best friends. We grew up together, played together, fought together, and now I have no one. She looked away and all that hostility briefly disappeared. It didn't matter that our families hated each other. Experiencing death was still painful. I'm sorry. I could tell from her face that she wasn't really expecting that. Losing someone you love creates a hole you can never really fill. I guess I have you and your brother to thank for that. Both sides lost wolves. Well, hopefully we don't lose anyone else. Troy joined us a few minutes later with just a white, short-sleeved shirt on. I could tell he was coming up behind me because of his loud footsteps. He stood on her left side so that I didn't have to see him. Cyrene. Fallon needs you. Of course. Alpha. She bowed her head and made her exit. Great. Now there was only air separating him and I. Snowflakes were falling faster. I shivered again. I never liked the cold. If your parents are still alive, how come you're Alpha? I asked. Did you send them away so you could take over? It always assumed his parents were dead like mine. It sent a bad message to claim to be alpha when they were still in fact living and breathing. They abdicated. Because you forced them to. Because they chose to. Why did they choose to? It was in our nature as well as duty to rule until death. We did not give up our crown so easily to the next generation. They can do what they want. He sounded a little annoyed, but I wanted to push his buttons. Sounds like they wanted to get away from you. He didn't answer, and I assumed that I hit a nerve. What? Did his parents not love him or something? I stared out at the woods. Just beyond those white mountains was my own pack. Ares must have been losing his mind, not knowing where I was. Iris had suggested that she tell him where I was, but I said no. I couldn't leave just yet. I needed his rejection. When I looked back at Troy, I was surprised to see him already watching me. Was he afraid I would run? Are you good? Troy's grating voice broke the silence. I hadn't even realized that I was fidgeting from side to side to warm myself. Even with the mink jacket and sheepskin boots, they gave me goosebumps, still rained down my arms. I'm not a big fan of the cold. It brought up too many bad memories. He threw something red at me and I quickly caught whatever it was. They're mittens, he said as if I were stupid. Thanks, I mumbled. They were cashmere and very soft. Probably the softest mittens he'd ever put on. His response came softly and genuinely. You're welcome. His parents left at noon. Apparently, they were going to spend a few months with a pack in New Brunswick. They didn't say when they would be back, but I got the feeling that it would be a long time. It may very well have been the last time I saw them. Cairo hugged me first. It was such a pleasure getting to know you. Claire. We hope the pack continues to treat you hospitably. He smiled. You will make a fine Luna. Claire. Sahara gave me a bear hug after him. I'm so sad that we have to leave, but let's keep in touch. I would love that. I smiled. And just so you know, it gets easier. I promise. She whispered and gave me another squeeze before letting me go. You and Troy will figure it out in the end. They hugged Troy too, but I could tell he barely tolerated it. Well, let Alpha Bastil know you both say hello. Sahara grabbed Troy's hands. Take care of the pack. I always do. Troy replied instantly. And take care of her. She briefly looked at me before looking at her son. Promise me. Oddly enough, Troy didn't hesitate. I promise. His parents smiled as they left the power of their pack in their son's hands. When they left, I assumed things would go back to the way they were with Troy, ignoring me and locking me in his room. But after they left, I was free to roam the castle. I started with breakfast downstairs, in which none of the wolves glared at me, though, nor did they acknowledge me. No reaction was good, I guessed. Then I made my rounds through the castle and made a mental note of where all of the rooms were. Not quite to escape, but to be more familiar with my surroundings. I was walking through the grand throne room when a shadow crept into the corner of my eye. It was Oslo, the one who called me a whore. Good morning. Oslo smiled as he lingered by the French doors. How are you? I'm good. How are you? I couldn't help but sense he was up to something. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I wanted to apologize for my atrocious behavior at the ball. I had a few extra drinks that night and they got the better of me. I assure you, that will never happen again. I could have said fuck off and never had anything to do with him again, but I bit my tongue. He could have been being genuine, which in that case I should at least try to talk it out. Water under the bridge. I know our packs have feuded for a long time, so I understand. Maybe we won't quite be friends, but maybe we can be allies, he offered. I'd like that. I stared at the two golden thrones and thought of how he'd never seen his parents sit on them. Do Troy's parents normally leave the pack for long? Yes. My brother has many friends in very diverse parts of the world. Cairo is your brother. That would mean he was third in line to be alpha after Dallas. I knew plenty of second sons who were envious of their older brothers. It was basically coded in their alpha DNA. He is my older brother by 2 years. We were very close when we were children, but now since he leaves for months at a time, we have grown apart. If he were bitter, he didn't sound it. Maybe he was actually happy for his brother. At times, I sympathize with Troy and Dallas. I could not imagine leaving my children for that long. Do you have any children? My son, Sidon. He is one of the warriors, Oslo explained. He is most likely participating in daily training outside. I taught him everything he knows. Speaking of, I've been meaning to ask. His neutral face transformed into a warm smile. Would you care to join me in a friendly training session? Aluna should know how to defend herself. Here. I looked around the throne room, which was probably not the most comfortable spot to fight. I could only imagine how much it would hurt to land on my back. It will just be a friendly session to warm up the muscles. Nothing too advanced. I am sure your brother taught you how to fight very well. He walked around me as I thought about it. Actually, that was somebody else. She was one of our best warriors before she damaged the nerves in her foot. That was Kashmir. Of course. But our parents sent her on a mission and she came back with a crippled foot that would never heal. Then let's see what you've got. Think of it as us bonding. Me and the guy who insulted me in front of his entire pack were going to bond. And by sparring? He made the first move and aimed right for my nose. I dodged out of the way and tried a kick to his abdomen, but he was very fast. I blocked another of his punches with my forearms. The force stung my skin. Good. He praised. Very good. He rewarded me with a punch that almost knocked me out. I moved out of the way just in time for his fist to hit the air. What happened to this being a friendly session? I asked half-jokingly, half-seriously. But he was all serious, and I could tell he truly wanted to kill me. Oslo pounced on me, and I wasn't strong enough to kick him off me. 2 hands gripped my neck and choked all the oxygen from entering my throat. I choked and gagged and dug my nails into his skin, but it was no use. He was killing me, and I was powerless. Black was creeping into my field of vision as the last of the air was cut off. I was paralyzed. Suddenly the pressure was lifted and I was conscious again. I collapsed onto the floor and gulped down air like crazy. What the fuck are you doing? Troy sounded absolutely livid. I could have you executed for this. He was kicking the living shit out of his uncle. Bones cracked from the force and Oslo spat blood onto the tiled floor. Execute me. I hope defending that True Blood bitch is worth it. Go to my office, Andu. Not. Move. Troy used the alpha command on him, and he had no choice but to obey. I finally recovered enough to sit up, but I was too weak to even try and stand. Let's go, you know what? I'll just carry you. He bent down and reached his hands under my knees. He picked me up with ease and started moving. I didn't have any energy to protest. I rested my head on his chest and let my body go limp. I tried to ignore the throbbing pain in my throat that worsened when I swallowed. Put your arms around my neck. His voice was so gentle that it almost didn't sound like him. I slung my arms around the back of his neck and tried clasping my fingers together. Never in 1,000 years would I have thought that I'd ever be carried in Troy's arms. Never in a million would I have thought that I'd let him. Fallon was about 3 decades younger than Soren, so my expectations were pretty low. Healers often hit their peak when they had about 30 years of experience. She inspected my throat as he told her what had happened. Tell me, Troy demanded impatiently. Anger was radiating off of him in waves. There is intense bruising in the throat area. Her larynx has some major swelling, so I'm treating it with comfrey root and honey. The bruising should remedy in a couple of days. I'm going to kill him, Troy growled. I'm going to fucking kill him. I wasn't going to tell him otherwise. How did you know that I needed help? I tried to speak, but the pain restricted my voice to barely a whisper. Fallon shook her head at me. Don't try to speak. It will increase the swelling. Then how am I supposed to talk? I thought sourly. That's the point. We could all use some peace, Troy said in my head almost immediately, and I scowled. Then I'll just have to scream telepathically. Scream and I'll make sure you lose your voice permanently. Talk is cheap, especially coming from you. I rolled my eyes. How did you know where to find me? Troy didn't answer right away. Fallon started putting fresh comfrey leaves coated with honey on the outside of my throat. It stung at first, but quickly soothed the soreness. I felt it. What? He avoided my eyes on him. The bond. I knew you were in trouble, and I knew where you were. A realization hit me. He didn't even have to channel the mate bond. It was open. Almost like he hadn't been rejecting it all this time. Troy stalked off before I could respond. I'm going to deal with Oslo. Don't leave until I'm here to protect you. From the tone in his voice, I knew that he didn't say that to have some sort of control over me, but because he truly didn't want to see me hurt again. And for a moment, I'd forgotten that I hated him. After Oslo attacked me, it was like there was a switch in Troy. He started keeping tabs on me more, not to keep me from running away, but to make sure I wasn't being followed. He also told me to mind link where I was every few hours or so. It wasn't quite as strict as what Ares had set up for me, but it was still annoying. Though what really irked me was when I would accidentally use the mind link, and Troy was the only one to hear. Sometimes I was insulting him in my head. Sometimes I let a whisper of a thought meant to be private escape. Troy was just as happy with the arrangement as I was. Our minds were, in a sense, melded. It was hell. My vocal cords healed in a matter of days, and I could speak again. If anything, the entire experience should have humbled me not to take my voice for granted, but now that it was back, I used my first words to cuss Troy out. What the fuck are you going to do with that piece of shit? I demanded. Oslo had been sitting in a clean cell with heaps of food being brought to him by his son. He seemed to be doing more than okay during his punishment. I'm figuring it out. Troy exhaled in exasperation. Figure it out faster. You're on thin ice. Princess. If looks could kill, I would be dead in a second. Too bad I didn't care. You don't scare me. Why don't you just kill him? He tried to kill me. The supposedly Luna of his pack. So clearly he should kill him. Right. What else was to be done? If I killed him, his friends would retaliate. You're alpha of your pack. Screw his friends. An alpha without friends is an alpha who is weak. He eyed me. Just look at your brother. My brother's anything but weak. He took you down, didn't he? Then how did my spy infiltrate his pack? Because you sent her to betray us. And how was I able to accomplish that? With friends and allies. If I ordered Oslo's execution today, his son would no longer cooperate under my rule. If I ordered anything less than that, my pack would think they could get away with disrespecting you. So yes. For now, he will remain in his cell until he breaks. Troy ranted. I hate it as much as you do, but my hands are tied. Maybe he was right, but even so. His word was law. I thought the dictator Troy had that all figured out. The day continued on normally and without incident. Then, without notice, 3 people were at our door at once. Dallas came first with Iris and Cyrene filing behind him. He was holding a piece of paper. Troy Dallas could barely get out before he interrupted him. What? Troy snapped. You have a letter. Troy snatched the letter from Dallas' hands and read it for a minute. Then he threw it on the floor. Your brother is a pain in the ass. I picked the letter up and my eyes scanned over the words. It was in Heiress' own handwriting. Alpha Jackson. I know you took my sister and forced her to free you from my castle. I know you did this while violating the terms of our newly established treaty. We both know we cannot afford any further bloodshed. I will make an exception concerning the terms of the treaty if you meet me at the Black Lake and deliver her to me unharmed. This is a one-time deal. You have until sunset tonight. If you reject this proposal, then I will obliterate your pack like I did before. The choice is yours. Signed, Alpha Trueblood. Aries sounded so civil in the letter, but I knew he was fuming back home. Who is it from? Dallas asked. Aries. He wants his princess back by tonight, Troy said, and I put the letter on the dresser. I guess playing house will have to come to an end, Cyrene said. If he wants his precious princess back, then he has to come and get her. Troy got out some pen and paper and started writing furiously fast. It only took him a minute to write down his response. Where is the fucking messenger? I want to give my reply to our dear old friend Aries. He ran before we could stop him, Cyrene said. Last I heard, our pack messenger was still Liam, and he had the fastest legs out there. Fantastic. I'll bring it to him, Iris offered. No, Dallas said immediately. I'm the only one who can step foot on their territory without getting killed at first sight. My brother is right. I cannot send you. Troy shook his head. Everybody out. Alpha. The three of them bowed and swiftly made their exits. When they were gone and we were alone again, he crumpled the 2 letters in his fists. I swear you attract danger like it's your job. I'll go. I knew there were many who wanted me gone from the minute that they found out who I really was. Some even before that. You will do no such thing. Why? Because I'm your prisoner. Guest, he corrected. Guests have the right to leave, don't they? Troy didn't say anything else, and I sighed. Fine. I give up. I had no freedom. He could do whatever he wanted with me. Just like my brother. I thought you would beg more. He almost sounded disappointed. I don't beg. You have before. Was he talking about when we made our deal to reject me, to end our tether to each other for good, and he was the one to break it? Of course I begged. Will you beg now? His words covered a few moments of silence. When we first met, I would have given anything to be free from him. I still believe that now, though, with an exception. I hated to even think it, but it wasn't so bad here. Compared to my miserable time at the human school, I had more control over my life because Aries couldn't get to me. I remembered how trapped and alone I felt, and never wanted to feel that way again. The only person I would miss if I didn't go back was Shane, who I hoped had made it back home safely. Would I be happier living my life as it had been before in the human world, or would I be happier in the enemy's pack? It sounded like a trick question to me. And then there was the entire reason that I was here. He still needed to reject me. It was why I risked everything to be here. You don't miss your brother? Troy probed. I don't not miss him. And that was the truth. There was only an hour before sunset when another message came in through the mind link. Alpha. It was Cyrene. Aries' Trueblood is at the northern gate. I guess he couldn't wait. Let him in. Troy said. Today's your lucky day. Princess. Troy said to me only, but I couldn't react. I thought you'd be happy. Who doesn't love a good old family reunion? I should have been 100% happy. It was bound to happen anyway as word got out that I was here. But I knew what it really meant. My brother was coming to get me so he could send me away again. Troy and I made our way down to meet Aries at the back entrance. Dallas. Cyrene and 2 other wolves I didn't know were already there. My brother came alone, but his powerful presence made it feel like he had a dozen wolves with him. I still have an hour, Troy said. I'm only here as a messenger. Aries replied, though Troy's wolves looked ready to fight. Stand down. Troy communicated telepathically. And what message do you have for us? It is one of peace. Respect the terms of the new treaty and let Claire go. Okay, Troy said comically fast. Okay. Even Aries sounded like he didn't believe it. No tricks. You're both free to go. He motioned to the door. A rest guard was still up as he walked past the enemy wolves. Nobody moved as he opened the door and waited for me to join him. Remember our deal, I said to Troy as I followed my brother out the door. Once we were in the car, Aries waited 2 full minutes before getting straight to it. Did he hurt you? He demanded with his hands tightening around the wheel. He was probably imagining them on Troy's neck right now. No. Did he touch you? No. Then tell me what he did to you. He didn't do anything to me. I nearly screamed. I was fine before you came along. My buffoon of a brother was lost for words. He certainly wasn't expecting that answer. He thought he was saving me from the enemy when in reality I had more freedom then than I did now. He was silent for a moment and only spoke once he had calmed down. I apologize for taking so long. Iris told me you were here, but I wanted to wait until Cairo and Sahara left. They can be quite sensitive when they see me. It's fine. Like I said, he didn't do anything to me. Then what happened? His tone was a bit softer, as if finally realizing that his first technique wasn't working at all. I looked out the passenger side window and counted the trees blurring by. I was his guest. I was given food, water, fresh clothes, a bed to sleep on. I said honestly, but I could already tell that Aries didn't believe me. I wasn't expecting him to let you go so easily. Are you disappointed you didn't get to beat him up? Of course not. We have a treaty. And you see how well that's going. I said sarcastically, and Aries wasn't having it. You instigated this. Why did you go down there when I told you not to? I was going to finish the job that you couldn't, which ended up with you freeing him. I couldn't confess that he was my mate. That would break Aries. He tricked me. It was a white lie, and he saw right through it. I don't know why you're lying for him, but I will find out the truth. I hope you do. I thought bitterly. There's something else I have to talk to you about, Aries said. Your friend Shane came to me and told me what happened. He said that you phased in front of him. He had to come back to the castle and get directions to his house. I felt guilty for what I did to Shane. I basically abandoned him to find Troy when I should have stopped myself and driven him back home. I braced myself for more yelling, but it never came. What is going on with you, Claire? He seemed genuinely concerned, and not in his controlling way of being concerned. Your behavior lately has not been normal, even for you. And I'm getting concerned. I just want to know what's going on with you so I can help. You already know why. Water stung my eyes and I blinked to keep myself from crying. I just want to come home. I miss you and Alex and Blake and Soren. It's so lonely living away from everyone. The only good thing about that stupid town was Shane, and he probably wouldn't even talk to me. I understand, and you will come back to live with us. I promise. But right now, it's not safe at the castle with all the potential spies lingering around. You're safest where you already are. Typical. Not safe. I just spent 1 month living with the enemy. There is no place less safe than that. I retorted. You know why I didn't try to escape? Because it was better than going back to that fucking place. I had more freedom there than I've ever had in years. You think you're my savior, but you're really just my captor. Finally being able to vent and tell him how I really felt without him cutting me off was freeing. I never told you this, but about 10 years ago, you were almost killed by hunters, Aries admitted, and I whipped around to see his face. This was the first time I was hearing this. We were traveling back from Edric's pack when a car tried running us off the road. Father did his best to keep us from falling off the mountain while I was trying to get a good look at the drivers. The next thing I know, 2 arrows pierce the window on your side and go right in your chest. We were hours away from home, so we had to get another healer's help. We were extremely lucky that they were able to save you. You were too young to comprehend what was going on, or maybe you just blocked it out, but when I asked you about it a year later, you didn't seem to remember it ever happening. I remembered packing for the trip, driving to Edric's pack, and everything that came before, but not after. Father looked at the arrows and knew they were from hunters. That's why I sent you away. It's not because I want to get rid of you, or because I don't care. Hunters can't resume their activities on human territory. They won't let humans be casualties. Aries turned his head to look at me. We're all we have left. Claire, I don't want to lose you. I tapped my fingers on my leg. Now it all made sense as to why he was so paranoid of hunters and so overprotective of me. It was no secret that I knew people were after me. It kind of came with the title of the Alpha's sister, though I never knew how close they really got. But I deserved to live my life without fear. You can't hide me away forever. Sooner or later, I will come back and you'll realize shipping me off was a stupid idea. We drove in silence for an hour and the trees became familiar. We were almost home. But for some reason, I was dreading it. Are you going to make me switch schools? I broke the silence. No. He replied, and we were suddenly approaching the castle gates. You're going back in the morning. Is that a command? The car came to a halt for a minute before we were allowed through. The gates closed again behind us once we were inside. Yes. True to his word, Aries had me return to school the next day. It was a Wednesday, so my untimely return prompted some questions from the humans. My teachers were easiest to fool. When I'd gotten back to the guest house, Kashmir had explained that my brother had taken care of my long absence. He sent in a doctor's note stating I was temporarily excused due to a serious illness. All I had to do was catch up on my homework, which I had a lengthy extension for. Still, it would take me a very long time to catch up, if I even decided to do so. As soon as we had our morning break, I walked straight to Shane's locker and hoped he would be there. He was putting his books away, looking relaxed until he saw me. He then immediately shut his locker and walked the other way. Shane. Wait. I can explain. Save it. He didn't even look me in the eyes. Thanks for leaving me back there. Thanks a lot. He cut a sharp right into his next class and I was left standing alone in the hallway. He had never been this angry with me before. He was always so good at controlling his emotions, so even if he was mad, I never really knew it. So for him to not try to hide how he felt really meant something. Shane was my only friend here, and now that I didn't have any, I was the lone wolf again. The late bell rang and I had exactly 30 seconds to get to my class on the opposite side of the school. But why should I care about school anymore? Aries wasn't here and wouldn't be here, so I could do whatever the hell I wanted. Aries started the strict curfews again an entire day after I returned. Kashmir told me the news over breakfast. I was supposed to come back to the house straight after school every day and was only allowed to leave for emergencies. Alpha's orders, Kashmir said, almost apologetically. Screw him. Hez ruining my life. Hez only doing what is best for you. You mean what he thinks is best for me. And apparently, Aries always knew what was best for other people. Kashmir sighed. Please take this seriously. Claire. You don't know how many serious threats are out there. I buttered my toast and took an angry bite. Oslo was my biggest threat and he was locked up. Don't you get tired of being my babysitter? I asked instead. Don't you want to do something else with your life? Your safety is most paramount. Not only for the future of our pack, but also for the love of your brother. You would do well to listen to him. Her tone was stern and I rolled my eyes when she had her back turned. Nobody said anything about my curfew on the weekends, so when Kashmir wasn't looking, I took the car along with her stash of money that she thought she hid so carefully and drove myself to the closest mall. I used all of the money to give myself a makeup. I pierced my right eyebrow and septum, bought all new clothes from that one goth store, and dyed black streaks in my sunny blonde hair. No more cute dresses. No more sweet smiles. After all, I was a bitch. The next day, I put all of my classmates to shame in my new style. I wore a turtleneck crop top, ripped black jeans over fishnet tights, and leather black platform boots. I put on heavy black eyeliner and black matte lipstick. Kashmir took in my new appearance and immediately told me to go change. I simply replied with, I burned all of my old clothes. Then I took the keys and slammed the door. Shane still hadn't talked to me, and it had been 3 weeks. I was beginning to think I couldn't break him until I showed up to our first class together. He was already there, but it wasn't until I passed by his desk that he became absolutely astounded. I took my assigned seat in the middle row and popped some gum in my mouth. What the hell happened to you? Shane demanded with his mouth gaping open. If he reacted this well. I couldn't wait to see what Aries thought. I went shopping. I mean your hair. Oh, so you're talking to me now. I challenged. I knew I was being petty, but I didn't care. No, I'm just concerned. You have no reason to be. If I was going to be the black sheep, then I might as well look the part. Class started, and we didn't speak again. It had been a rough month without Shane. I didn't relate well to people my age. Maybe it was because I was secretly a werewolf being raised in the human world, but that was just a guess. My point was, Shane really was the only person I had here. I would rather face 10 wolves than stay in this hellhole. The morning passed by uneventfully. Then it was math. I had the great privilege of having Layla Pride in my class. Thankfully, my only class with her today, though we were still in the same room together, so it did suck. When I walked in and took my seat in the front, I could hear her talk about me with my advanced hearing. I guess that's what rock bottom looks like. Layla sniggered to her clique. Too far for the teacher to hear. Guess the mental hospital didn't even want her. I can send you to the real hospital if you don't shut your mouth. I glared at her over my shoulder and everyone stopped talking. Even the teacher raised an eyebrow. Claire, everything okay? He asked and noticed my change in appearance. Peachy. I skipped my last 2 classes. And for the first time in a long time, Troy had crossed my mind. So apparently skipping too many classes could land you a temporary suspension. I was sitting in the principal's office, listening to him drone on and on about how skipping classes and skipping detentions were a serious offense. Nothing new. Kashmir was next to me. They thought she was my mom. A single mom at that. So they were going easy on her. Ms. McDonald. Your daughter has been absent for 7 total classes in the past 3 weeks, all of which require daily attendance and participation to pass. He stated the obvious. When asked for a note documenting the reason why, She is unwilling to cooperate. Why did you skip class? Kashmir mind-linked me in the middle of his lecture. Because I didn't want to go. Clearly. Now, Ms. MacDonald, I have to ask. Is there anything going on at home that I should be made aware of? The principal asked. No. Our home situation has remained the same. I understand Claire had a health concern and had to miss 3 weeks of school. Our policy allowed her to make up all of the work she had missed, but it has come to my attention that she has not turned in any of that work. Her grades have slipped too far. And after multiple warnings, the school has no choice but to issue a temporary suspension. Kashmir almost lost her shit. No. What can we do so that won't happen? I'm sorry, but the board has already gotten involved. The principal was a hard ass, but he seemed to soften. The best we can do is cut her suspension term from 20 days to 10 days. But Claire will be under strict supervision and her grades must improve. They will. I promise. Glad to hear it. Because if not, the next step is expulsion. The principal let us go and Kashmir grabbed my arm. When we get home, you're doing all of your schoolwork. And I do mean all. I don't want to hear any backtalk. That's not my home. It's just a place where I sleep. Kashmir was the angriest I'd ever seen her, and she was usually so very calm. The entire car ride back home was silent. She didn't even look at me. When we got to the guest house, I was about to run inside when she grabbed my arm again. Wait. I need to talk to you. What's there to talk about? Claire. Her voice was very hard. This is serious. I lost one daughter before, and I won't lose another. I'm not your daughter. We may not be directly related, but I still think of you as my own. And I understand how you're feeling. No. You don't. I interrupted coldly. Because if you did, you would be begging Aries to let me come home instead of cutting me off from the only place I ever felt like I belonged and the only people who ever gave a damn about me. I don't want you to be unhappy. Claire. Nobody does. This arrangement was to protect you. But I know how much going home means to you. So the next time I give my update to Aries, I will advocate for you to return home. Kashmir's words surprised me. It was always Eris' word is final, and I have no power in this situation, and most heavily, your feelings don't matter. But she said she would speak for me this time, and I didn't know if she could change anything. But it still meant something. I nodded and was about to get out when I said, You can tell Aries about my suspension. I want him to know. It was December now. Out of all the months in the year, this was the worst one. We only had 2 more weeks of school until winter break. I wrote out my 10-day suspension last month by half-assing my homework, which apparently happened to be enough for me to return to school. I was still putting in 0 effort, but the teachers were more lenient since they were giving 0 effort right before the holidays. 2. Since it was cold now, I couldn't sit outside on the bleachers during lunch anymore. But I wouldn't be caught dead eating at a table in the cafeteria by myself either. Instead, I found a spot in the hallway by the music rooms where a couple of other students ate lunch. I felt lonely eating without company. And me being so very socially desperate even debated on making an effort to fit in with the other humans. But it wouldn't be worth the trouble as I had to keep too many secrets. I would just hurt them like I hurt Shane. I was just going through the motions at this point. Wake up. School. Go to sleep. Repeat. My life was monotonous and mundane and not at all what I wanted it to be. I was someone who needed freedom and unpredictability, but it seemed I would never get it. And so, I was sitting in the hallway like I did every day when I heard someone approach me. I took one look at their brown, beaten-up Converse and immediately knew who had come to see me. How's it going? Shane asked from above, and I craned my neck to look at him. Excuse me. Sorry. Werewolf pun. Shane then became serious. Can we talk? I'd secretly been waiting for Shane to come to me, and it only took 2 months to crack him. Was I a tiny bit scared that I'd ruined our friendship for good? Yes. Did I have faith he would come back and talk when he was ready? Also yes. I nodded and he sat down next to me. He seemed to be doing just fine without me. I saw him chatting with Layla between classes, and he was even sitting with the rest of the jocks at lunch like he used to. This talk is long overdue, isn't it? He scratched his head. Look, I'm not mad at you. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I was. But not because you left me in the middle of fucking nowhere after you started stripping your clothes. No less. He mumbled under his breath. But because you never called to see if I made it back home safe. You just disappeared. You forgot about me. It's like you didn't even care what happened to me anymore. He sounded so dejected that it hurt to listen to him. I had to make this right. You're wrong. I do care about you. Shane. Very much. You stayed with me when no one else did. I don't deserve someone like you. He looked down and was unable to meet my eyes. So I put my hand on his arm. And you're also right. I should have been there. I should have made sure you found a safe way home, but instead I was selfish and only thought about myself. I'm so sorry I left you like that. This isn't a good excuse, but something happened. I'd already confessed I was a werewolf, but I couldn't tell him about mates. At least not yet. And I had to leave. Why? What happened? He asked immediately. I can't really tell you yet. I just had to get out of there as soon as possible, and I couldn't really come back for you. The bell rang and our conversation was cut short. Shane grabbed his backpack and stood up. His expression was unreadable. I had no idea if he would forgive me after all that. I just prayed that I said enough. I'll see you in class, I asked hopefully, and he hesitated. Then he grinned a bit. Possibly. He left for class and I smiled to myself. At least he could joke around with me again. I was beginning to think he would never come around. The happy feeling didn't last long, though, because Layla came waltzing down the hallway. She side-eyed me with her trademark sour expression. I don't know why he ditched us for someone like you. Like you don't know what you did. She barely turned around when she retorted. I never did anything to him. Nobody did. One day we were perfectly fine, and the next he treated us like trash. Typical Layla. Always playing the victim. Whatever. You're so delusional. She scoffed and kept walking past me. I hitched my backpack over my shoulder and got up from the floor. I was debating on whether or not to go to my next class when my phone rang. My brother was calling me, and he never called first. Not even when he was mad. Hello. I feigned confusion. Who is this? Your brother. Sorry. I don't know who that is. Funny. Why are you calling me? Did he finally hear about my suspension from Kashmir? I wanted to check on how you were doing. I'm doing fine, I said quickly. And, he continued. And what? This was the real reason he was calling. I wanted to ask what you wanted for your birthday. Right. My birthday. I could have said 1,000 different things. I could have said I wanted a new phone or new car or even a new private jet, and he would have gotten it for me just like he got me whatever I asked for every single year since I was 11. But all of those things paled in comparison to what I really wanted. No material object could fill the hole and make my birthday any easier. All I want is to come home. Aries was quiet for a few seconds. I found myself holding my breath, waiting for his response. The last time we talked, Aries was adamant about me staying safe, which meant far away from the castle. That's all? That's all? No list. No demands. Not this time. Okay. Was it really that easy? Why did I feel like there was a catch? I'll send word for Kashmir to drive you home. Is Friday evening too early? It was never too early. Friday evening is good. Then it's settled. I'll see you in a couple of days. I heard Soren calling for him in the background, so he had to end the call, but I didn't care. I was going home. Kashmir and I arrived at the castle at exactly 7 o'clock. Blake was the first to greet me, and we hugged for a solid minute. Marvel and Soren were also there to welcome me back, while Ares was nowhere in sight, but what did I expect? Welcome home. Claire and Kashmir. Soren greeted and patted me on the back as we hugged. Nobody said anything about my new look. Happy birthday, Blake said with a sweet smile on his face. There's nothing happy about it. My stomach rumbled, so I made my way inside to get some snacks. Long drives always made me hungry, even though I was just napping the entire time. I said hi to Sam working in the kitchens and grabbed a bag of food. Then I walked up to my room, which was still right down the hall from Aries and now Alex's. It was freezing inside. The sheets looked stiff, and a thick layer of dust coated my mirror. It had been so long that I couldn't even remember the last time I slept in my own bed. I dropped the bag of food on my vanity and sat down to take my shoes off. Sam made your favorite for dinner. I turned around and saw Aries standing in the doorway. My favorite dish was slow-roasted venison with 10 different sides to choose from. It was a hard meal to put together, which was why they didn't serve it often. What's for dessert? That's a surprise. I got up to hug him, and he always hugged me back. New clothes. Something like that. Where's your other half? She's taking a nap. Don't bother her. She needs all the rest she can get. Right. How could I possibly forget that she was pregnant? It wasn't like he brought it up in every conversation or that everyone in the pack wasn't yapping about it. Alex must be getting pretty big now, considering she was due in a couple of months. Yes, and now you two can finally start a new family. You know, the one you always wanted. I couldn't help but add. I knew I was being petty, but it felt like he was moving on and leaving me behind. I was just an afterthought to him, or worse. A nuisance. Gone were the days when all we had was each other. Someday you'll find your mate and everything will change. They will be the single, most important thing in your life. You'll grow together, build a life together, and you'll have each other. He said like it was so deep. Because I did find them. But Troy was nothing like the mate we had all imagined. Aries continued. I know how much you want your own children. You'll have your own family someday and you'll understand. Some people grew up knowing that they wanted pups, but I knew since I was very young that I wanted them. I wanted to give my children the happiest life that I could. I wanted them to be born out of love. I am happy for you. Aries. I swallowed. I know it might not seem like it, but you deserve the world. You grew up fast because you had to, and I'll always appreciate how you took care of me the way that you did. It was a heavy burden whether you'll admit it or not. You were all I had, but now I see that you can't be anymore. And that was something I just had to accept. Just then, Alex came in. She was wearing a dress to hide her bump, but she still looked very pregnant, especially compared to the last time I saw her in the fall. It's so good to see you, Claire. I got up and we hugged. Are you on winter break already? Not yet. I still have 2 more weeks. It's her birthday today, Aries added. It's your birthday? I had no idea. Alex gasped. It's because I hate my birthday. Why do you hate your birthday? She asked cluelessly, but not even the Luna could make me answer that question. I stood up and bowed my head to excuse myself. I didn't even bother putting on a jacket. I need some fresh air. I'll be back after dinner. Don't wait up. I sat down on the dead grass and stared at the only thing that anchored me. Here lies beloved parents Carlisle Trueblood and Autumn Trueblood. Thick, dark emerald vines climbed up the stone and disappeared as it reached the top. The gravestone listed their birth dates, death dates, and a crescent moon in the center above their names. I reached out and ran my fingers over the smooth surface of the words, like I was still connected to them somehow. If only they were here, maybe I wouldn't feel so alone. The ground was frozen to the touch, but I didn't care. I just wanted to feel something. The cold numbed my palms and bit into my skin. I looked around at the many graves dug in the earth. War had sprouted them all. Row upon row of silent markers that lingered long after the battles had ended. A singular snowflake landed on my nose and melted in an instant. Deal's off. My hand dropped and my eyes immediately found his. It was undoubtedly Alpha Troy. You came all this way just to tell me that. I kept my voice bitter. He stood only 10 feet away from me and my parents' graves. The burial grounds were the only neutral territory between our packs. After all, the dead had no enemies. Even if he was the one who killed them. I never intended on rejecting you, he said while my back was still turned. I wanted you to feel like you needed me. No shit. I rolled my eyes. And why would you want me to feel that way? Because if you needed me, then maybe you wouldn't leave. But why wouldn't he want me to leave? Wouldn't he want the opposite? What was he even fucking saying? I gave up. That makes zero sense. Troy stepped closer to me so that I couldn't avoid his amber eyes. There was a flicker of something raw that betrayed the mask he attempted to uphold. The truth is, I've spent years planning the downfall of your pack. I told myself that I hated you, your parents, and Ares most of all. This time, I intended to be patient and meticulous because I knew it would pay off. Darcy was merely a pawn, but she played her part perfectly. Everything was set. Then I met you. I met you and my fucking God. You drive me absolutely crazy. Crazier than anyone ever has. And yet, you've been on my mind for 2 months straight, and I don't know if it's the so-called mate bond, but it's like a fucking curse. You were never part of the plan. But now you're the only part that matters. Silence stretched between us. My heart ached with emotions. I shouldn't have wanted to feel emotions I tried to bury. But I wouldn't be fooled again. I stood up and faced him straight on. Why should I believe anything you say? You could have released us both from this. You're saying the same old things. Troy didn't look away as he said, You think I don't hate myself for being so weak? This wasn't supposed to mean anything. He took a step towards me and I backed away. Stop, I commanded, though my body betrayed me by leaning ever so slightly into him. Claire. My pulse raced when he spoke my name. I mean it. My voice wavered for the first time. His hand caught my wrist before I could react. His grip wasn't brutal, but desperate. Let go, I commanded. He only gripped my wrist tighter and I tried to land a blow on his pretty face. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. My eyes widened to their full extent as Troy pressed his lips to mine. My mouth parted in pure shock as we crashed into each other. I didn't even register what was happening until 5 seconds had already gone by. I had kissed many boys before. Henry. In 5th grade behind the swings during recess. Owen. In the woods during the summer before 7th grade. Philip. The spring of 8th grade behind the gym bleachers. But this one made me forget all the others. And I didn't know whether to kiss or kill him.